Douluo, I'm really not strong. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 126, a melee at the level of title Douluo. Breaking free from the gravity domain and the slowness domain, Bibidong immediately extended the killing god domain in a straight line towards Ghost Douluo. At the same time, the Death Spider King's talent field was activated, and purple light surrounded her, blocking the two fields. The purple poison slowly condensed in the sky, and then turned into small water droplets, and scattered into the lake. In an instant, the lake was dyed purple, and the fish that were swimming began to turn white. The talent field of Bibidong's martial spirit is the field of death. The superposition of the two fields is really terrifying, especially in the duel between masters. If you are a little slow, you will die without a whole body. Fortunately, she also has two realms, especially the god of death realm, which is even more powerful. Boom. Ghost Douluo, who was shrouded in the killing god realm, felt a biting coldness coming on him, and his strength dropped a lot, but the pressure and sluggishness in his body disappeared. Seeing the Titan sky-breaking attack, the 7th soul ring on the soles of Ghost Douluo's feet lit up directly. Thick fog burst out from his body, and Ghost Douluo's figure disappeared. In an instant, a black shadow flashed through the mist, and its scalded eyes were chilling. Boom. The violent air shock wave hit. Ghost Douluo did not dodge at all, only to see a big hole penetrated by the mist. Boom. There was an earth-shattering explosion, and the surrounding earth and rocks exploded and splashed like an earth dragon. A deep pit with a diameter of 30 meters was formed on the ground, and the surrounding water flowed down. It's a pity that such amazing destructive power is still useless when faced with the physical immunity of Ghost Douluo's ghostly true body. Ghost Douluo immediately returned to Bibidong and glanced at her gratefully without saying much. Ahem. Douluo also came out of the rock wall and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his eyes full of evil. Humans, I advise you to take care of yourself and get out of here quickly. Being hit in the front by Ghost Douluo's ghost claw, Xiao Wu's mother's face turned a little pale. She looked at Bibidong and the others coldly and shouted, "Roar." Before he finished speaking, a ferocious roar sounded like thunder that shook the sky. The 200,000-year soul beasts were also ready to attack, breathing heavily, and their ferocious expressions exuded the ferocity of ferocious beasts. Leave. Haha. Hearing this, Bibidong suddenly sneered. She discovered 400,000-year soul beasts at once. How could she just leave like that? You want me to leave unless you hand over a 100,000-year-old soul beast? Seeing the lake water dyed purple, Bibidong's eyes flashed with a strange light. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but raise, and she sneered. Human, what a dream. A deep roar sounded, and green thunder and lightning condensed over the lake. As if the sky was angry, green dragons were bombarding them. Bibidong immediately switched to the Death Spider Emperor martial spirit. Her spiked hands cut out, and countless purple black blades formed a strange shield in front of her. Countless black skeletons were like entities, rushing straight up to meet the incoming thunder. Boom. Black and cyan airflow exploded in the air and spread to all directions. Ghost, Bibidong put away her shield and looked at Ghost Douluo and Douluo. They immediately understood what it meant. Boom. The realm of death and the realm of the god of death exploded in an instant, pushing each other forward, as if the poisoned spears were showing their cold light, and they were as powerful as breaking bamboo. The purple and white mixed airflow directly pushed back the two titans' domains, with each side maintaining half of the space. The decisive battle is coming. Looking at the scene below, Suzanne's eyes narrowed and his heart beat faster. Who loses and wins depends on the performance of both parties. The 9th soul skill, Ghost Shadow Tribulation. The 9th soul ring on the soles of Ghost Douluo's feet suddenly lit up, and a large black hole appeared in the sky above the lake. The hole expanded violently, as if it wanted to encompass the entire lake. Okay, the black hole only extended 50 meters, and then stopped. At this moment, Douluo also moved, and he was seen arriving in the sky. Wow, Babel chrysanthemum behind him spread out in an instant, turning into petals all over the sky, each one sharper than a knife. The Chrysanthemums are broken, the ground is covered with wounds, the flowers have fallen, and people are heartbroken. Douluo's male-female voice sounded extremely proud, and more petals spread out, and under his control, they actually gathered into a golden tornado. The water on the lake pours upward, forming a rare dragon sucking water. The sharp petals are hidden in the water flow, forming a long white dragon, roaring majestically in the valley, about to show its fangs. Bibidang also moved, and an identical figure appeared from behind her, with 7 soul rings at her feet. The 16 soul rings were so dazzling that the valley became much brighter. The 4th soul ring on the soul of the clone Bibidang suddenly lit up, and long purple-black thorns over 1 meter long sprouted from her purple-black armor, glowing with scarlet light. Boom. The 3 attacks suddenly all headed towards the largest azure bull python, or rather towards both of them, because Xiao Wu's mother was also within the attack range. Bibidang and the others have made very clear calculations. As long as they defeat the larger and strongest azure bull python, the stupid titan ape and Xiao Wu's mother, who is the weakest at the moment, there will be little room for competition. Moreover, the titan ape is on land and cannot rescue the azure bull python at all. In this way, it is a perfect opportunity for 3-on-2. Ming Dynasty. Xiao Wu's mother naturally understood this and immediately shouted to remind her the azure bull python was in a panic, knowing that it could not resist the attacks of the 3 men. Its huge body rolled and actually dived directly into the depths of the lake. Xiao Wu's mother also teleported away from the lake immediately and attacked Bibidang and the others in a flash. Roar. When the titan giant ape saw the azure bull python being attacked, it burst out with a heart-rending roar. The figure instantly rose into the air and slammed its fists at it. Leave me alone and go all out. Bibidang's eyes narrowed and a domineering and cold voice sounded. The 2 ghost Douluo nodded and their figures instantly rose into the sky. Seeing Erming's attack, Xiao Wu's mother's pink eyes suddenly lit up and she looked directly at Bibidang, who was on the ground. Bibidang also noticed the abnormality and a bright light bloomed from the top of her head. Xiao Wu's mother's charm immediately lost its effect, but when she unleashed her spiritual soul bone skill, the powerful output of her spiritual power also made her face turn pale. Regardless of her physical weakness, Bibidang's soul power surged around her body, and her hands suddenly turned into 2 huge scythes. These were the twin soul bones she obtained from the 100,000-year-old Death Spider Emperor. Not only that, the 4th soul ring on the sole of her foot also lit up. Dark purple spider web spurted out from the abdomen, and dense purple poisonous gas enveloped the opponent. The huge titan ape was actually entangled directly and fell from the air. Chapter 127. Vicious beasts appear, and the situation changes. The titan ape's body shook, and the purple-black spider web was suddenly broken. As soon as it landed, the soul bone scythe extended from Bibidang's arm slashed directly at it. Boom. The titan ape had no time to react. The blade of the giant scythe struck directly along its chest, causing metal sparks to collide. Then blood spattered out, and the huge figure flew backwards. Seeing the blood on the soul bone of her arm, Bibidang showed a cold smile, and suddenly a dangerous aura rushed from behind. Wow. With a sudden wave of her arms, the giant scythe turned into a spiral and cut away. Bibidang finally saw who it was. It was Xiao Wu's mother. The giant scythe shone with a cold light. When Xiao Wu's mother saw the blood belonging to Erming on it, her eyes suddenly turned red. Just as the giant scythe was slashing down, her body became soft and seemed to be folded. She jumped up in an astonishing arc and directly avoided the attack. To Bibidang's expectation, she was also stunned. At this moment, a sound broke through the air, and her neck seemed to be entangled with something soft. Call out. After being kicked in the back, Bibidang's eyes narrowed, and the giant scythe swung down violently. With a sting, her long hair was cut off, and Bibidang moved away from Xiao Wu's mother. Looking at her broken long hair, Xiao Wu's mother was also stunned. Before she could recover, 2 strange sounds suddenly sounded in the sky. Liangai static field. Looking up, he saw brilliant silver flames burning on Ghost Douluo's body, and a layer of golden flames rose up on Ju Douluo beside him. Suddenly, the 9 soul rings on the 2 people lit up, making the gold and silver flames even more colorful. They saw 2 people standing facing each other, holding each other's hands, and the bodies of Ghost Douluo and Ju Douluo suddenly merged. That's right. Martial soul fusion skills. In order to perform this move, the two did not hesitate to use powerful soul skills to turn the lake upside down in order to gain time for fusion point. While attacking the Azure Bull Python, huge waves exploded on the lake surface, successfully covering up the two men's movements. In addition, both the Titan Giant Ape and Xiao Wu's mother were attacking Bibidong. No one interrupted them, and they finally succeeded in releasing the martial soul fusion skill. In an instant, the world seemed to turn into gold and silver, with only gold and silver flames flashing. What a terrifying martial soul fusion skill. Under the cliff, Suzanne was filled with admiration as he watched the two people's martial soul fusion skills, fear flashing in his eyes. If they weren't located within the vast sea universe barrier and were immune to the control of martial soul fusion techniques, he might have been immobilized and exposed. Of course, even if he uses a time-space type soul guide or a mecha immunity effect, he will be exposed. Kan Rinksu on the side was also very surprised when she saw the martial soul fusion skill. Suzanne could clearly feel that she seemed to be relieved. Your Majesty, controlling 300,000-year-old soul beasts was really exhausting. Coupled with the consumption of soul power, Douluo and the others also turned pale, with blood faintly leaking from the corners of their mouths, and they quickly reminded them. There was no need for the two of them to say anything. Bibidong had already started to take action. She did not choose the Titan Ape, but came directly towards Xiao Wu's mother. The Titan Ape's defense was astonishing, but Xiao Wu's mother, who had transformed into a human, was extremely fragile. Wow. Two huge scythes slashed towards Xiao Wu's mother, as if they wanted to kill her in one fell swoop. Boom. Suddenly, a blue energy mixed with black cracks burst out from the depths of the forest and hit Bibidong directly. Bibidong looked horrified. Her soul bone was chopped out in an instant, and the energy directly shattered into two halves. The energy was cut and then exploded, turning into countless water droplets and falling on Bibidong's body. Wow. Suddenly, Bibidong's pupils shrank, and she was very surprised. She felt that the soul power in her body was suppressed, and the evil power obtained from the Rakshasa god in her body was slowly growing and growing, as if it had encountered nourishment. Hearing the sound, Bibidong suddenly looked around and saw a woman walking out of the forest. The woman has a slender figure, long purple black hair hanging down behind her, and an extremely charming face. Her deep purple eyes are like gems, but her lips are bright purple. There was a scale as black as ink printed on her forehead, with layers of purple halo rippling. Many parts of her body were covered by scales, and she did not look like a human being. Who are you, Bibi? Dong looked so horrified that she didn't even bother to hunt down Xiao Wu's mother. She felt a strong pressure from her body. Even in her perfect state, she may not be able to defeat the opponent, not to mention that her soul power and mental power are too consumed at this moment. The woman didn't answer, but suddenly swung out her claw, and a huge black dragon claw appeared in the sky. Boom. Guiju and the other two were unable to move at all when they used martial soul fusion skills. They were hit directly and fell from the sky in an instant, with blood flowing from the sky and dripping on the lake. As the martial soul fusion skill was interrupted, the Titan Giant Ape and Azure Bull Python returned to normal, and Xiao Wu's mother Muran breathed a sigh of relief. This after. Looking at Ghost Douluo and Douluo, Bibidong's expression was so gloomy that he could shed tears, and his fists were tightly clenched. Humans, I advise you to leave as soon as possible, and do not disturb the tranquility of the Stardao forest. At this time, the woman's voice sounded majestic but cold, and seemed to carry an irresistible will. You, Bibi. Dong gritted her teeth. A cold light flashed in her eyes, and her elegant and confident face became a bit ferocious at this moment. She had almost succeeded in hunting the 100,000-year-old soul beast, but something unexpected happened at this time. How could she willingly retreat? As for the Titan Ape and the Azure Bull Python that surfaced, the three beasts were completely confused and had no idea what was going on. However, sensing the coercion of blood on the woman's body, the two-spirited beast also became more honest, and Xiao Wu's mother bowed slightly to show respect. On the rock wall, Suzanne was completely confused when he saw the scene at this moment. This was the first part of Douluo continent. Why did the ferocious beast escape? Damn it, is it possible to play cards without following the plot? When Douluo Yi Titan Giant Ape was being chased, why didn't you come to help? Why are you running out to disrupt the situation now? Originally, he wanted to pick up a few 100,000-year soul beasts to keep, or auction point. Now it seems that it is impossible to pick it up, and you have to rob it yourself. Xue, you stay inside the vast sea universe barrier later, and I'll capture a few 100,000-year soul beasts, and take them back. Suzanne reminded Point, give it a try and turn your bicycle into a motorcycle. Under this situation, if he didn't exchange his 4th soul ring for 100,000 years old, he would be sorry for the gathering of 5 soul beasts. Chapter 128, a sandbag the size of a soul beast. You want to take action? Hearing this, Xian blinked her big eyes, full of astonishment, and then became nervous again. She pulled Suzanne's arm, as if she didn't want him to go forward. Don't worry. With my strength, even if they work together, they can't beat me. Your husband, I'm very powerful. Suzanne comforted. A burst of white light suddenly lit up on his chest, and the white mecha was already worn on his body. Seeing that Suzanne had decided to leave, Xian couldn't stop him anymore. Then, be careful. If you can't beat him, just run away. Don't worry about me. I'll just hide here, holding Suzanne's arm tightly. Xian's face drooped, her soft eyes full of worry, and even the corners of her eyes were slightly moist. Don't worry. Hearing this, Suzanne rubbed her little face, feeling helpless and distressed. This girl who follows me is a bit sentimental, but she is also a bit more charming and cute, and she looks like the makings of a good wife. Suzanne stuffed a mouthful of candy into his mouth, and then the metal fiber covered his face, and Suzanne left the vast sea universe cover room. As soon as Suzanne appeared, he instantly attracted everyone's attention. No, all the beasts' attention. Your Majesty, it's him. Seeing Suzanne, Ghost Douluo's pupils shrank suddenly as he got up from the ground, and he screamed in horror. Hearing this, Bibi Dong's face turned even worse, as if he had taken poison, and he clenched his fists unwillingly. The other party is on the side of the Xian Dao Empire's royal family. Coupled with the previous attack, they are definitely enemies rather than friends. 3 against 4, the injured women had little chance of winning. Now with such a powerful enemy, even the chance of escaping became slim. I need 2 of the 500,000-year-old soul beasts. The remaining one is up to you. Just as Bibi Dong was thinking about evacuating like this, Suzanne's voice suddenly rang out, but it was a bit unclear as she was eating candy. Hearing this, Bibi Dong and the other 3 were stunned and looked at Suzanne in disbelief, as if they were dreaming. Damn it, what did they hear? Are you here to divide the soul beast? Damn it, not an enemy. Conspiracy. There is definitely a conspiracy. The expressions of the 3 people suddenly became solemn. Suzanne didn't pay attention to this, and looked at Ziji on the opposite rock wall. If you don't stay in there to practice, why would you come out? Suzanne criticized him with a tone like that of an elder. There's nothing he can do about it. He hates people, beasts, without professionalism the most. We are still in the Douluo period. How can you run out and wander around? Hearing Suzanne's words, Ziji also frowned and looked at Suzanne leisurely, feeling that the human in front of her seemed to have some understanding of the matters in the core area. Let's do this. We only need 300,000-year soul beasts here. If you agree, I won't disturb Dishan and the others. Seeing Ziji in a daze, Suzanne spoke again. The ferocious beasts are very powerful, and any one of them is a super Douluo. Even because Douluo 1 lacks attribute strength and other settings, they are even stronger than the super Douluo at this time. Of course, it's not that Suzanne can't beat him, it's just that he is only at level 40 now, and he will need more advanced soul rings in the future. As for the auction of a 100,000-year soul beast, 1 is enough. Come back next time, if you need it. I declare that from today on, the Stardao Forest will be the free-range soul beast farm for the royal family. No one can rob it. Hearing Suzanne says the name of the beast god, Ziji was shocked again. The beast god has not been out for countless thousands of years, yet there are still people who know his name. Could it be that the person in front of me has already lived hundreds of thousands? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Knowing that she was overthinking, Ziji quickly shook her head. Since your excellency knows what happened in the core area, it's best to retreat now so as not to hurt harmony. Ziji warned everyone in a cold voice. A cold wind blew from behind her, and her long hair started to fly. If she didn't know how deep Suzanne was, she would have wanted to kill Suzanne directly, to prevent the things in the core area from being leaked. Hearing the conversation between Suzanne and the two mentioning the core area again and again, Bibidong's eyes flashed with an inexplicable look, as if he had discovered the secret of the Stardao Forest. Unfortunately, with her current strength, she is unable to investigate deeply. Retreat. Hearing this, Suzanne raised the corners of his mouth slightly and couldn't help but feel a little unhappy inside. He came here to maintain a peaceful and developing friendship, so it's pretty good that he doesn't have any thoughts about you ferocious beasts for the time being. Otherwise, don't blame me for letting those guys like Lan Xiang bulldoze the Stardao Forest. It seems that strength is needed to speak for itself. With his eyes focused, Suzanne stared at the titan ape on the ground. Aha! With a flash of figure, Suzanne appeared in front of the titan ape and kicked him hard. The silver light on his legs lit up, and the huge titan ape was kicked directly into the air. Call out. Without giving it a chance to land at all, Suzanne's figure appeared in the air again and directly beat the titan giant ape as a sandbag. Boom. The sound of extreme blows from fists to flesh rippled through the valley in an instant, accompanied by the heart-rending sound of the titan ape roaring, but unable to resist. The scene was once shocking and chilling. Ah, you so strong? Seeing Suzanne playing with the 100,000-year-old titan ape as a toy, Qian Mingsu covered her mouth, her eyes filled with astonishment and even some disbelief. That's a 100,000-year soul beast you actually treated as a sandbag. I go. It's too strong. Equally horrified was Bibidong. At this moment, she finally believed that what Ghost Douluo said was true. She could also kill a 100,000-year-old soul beast, but it was absolutely impossible for her to completely defeat him like Suzanne. In fact, the other party seemed to have some room left, more like a joke, which was even more shocking. Stop it. Seeing Suzanne mistreating the soul beast in this way, Ziji immediately became angry. She condensed the ultimate Xian water energy in her hand and attacked Suzanne directly. Let's go. Seeing Ziji's attack, Suzanne kicked the titan giant ape down, and then a silver sword appeared in his hand. The long sword looks very ordinary, except that the blade is inlaid with 7 silver crystals of about 1 centimeter in the shape of the Big Dipper. Boom. Suddenly, 3 silver crystals on the sword lit up. The long sword seemed to be half activated, and it suddenly burst into bright light, dazzling like the sun in the sky. Terrifying energy fluctuations swept across the entire valley in an instant, and even Ziji had to stop. The power that this sword is emitting can easily kill a super Douluo. Are you sure you want to try it, Su? Xian raised the corners of his mouth slightly, showing a harmless smile, and reminded him kindly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129, Trapping Mother-in-Law is in progress. The 7 crystals on the silver sword represent the source. Different from the explosive energy burst form, the material of the sword body is extremely special. When the source fusion generates huge energy, it can concentrate the violent energy on the sword, and finally let the sword holder burst out in the form of sword energy. Because it is a concentrated single attack, the destructive power it produces is extremely high. The energy of a source was chopped down, already exceeding the terrifying level of the 9th level fixed soul cannon, and ordinary super Douluo could not withstand it at all. When the 7 sources of the long sword are activated, they can be combined to form a formation, and the attack power is even more shocking. Of course, the long sword also has shortcomings, that is, the attack is too concentrated and cannot cause range damage, so it is easy to be avoided, but the mecha can make up for it. Sensing the terrifying power on the sword, even Ziji couldn't help but swallow her saliva in fear. This sword was enough to cut her in half. Bibidong's face below was also full of shock, and she couldn't help but feel fear in her heart, feeling deeply powerless. This feeling of powerlessness and fear had only appeared to 3 people, Tang Heo and Liu. The powerful energy in front of her was more like an attack about to be launched by an extreme Douluo. She felt like she was facing Liu. How about I swing my sword to show you? Seeing the dazed look on Demon Queen Ziji's face, Suzanne raised the corner of her mouth slightly and reminded her or at this moment, a dragon roar suddenly sounded, and the Demon Queen Ziji trembled slightly, looking at the forest behind her in disbelief. Retreat. Why retreat? Full of disbelief in the beast god's order, the Demon Queen was also stunned. Her eyes were full of unwillingness, as if she wanted to kill someone coldly. However, since it was the order of the beast god, Queen Ziji naturally did not dare to disobey it. Looking at the 3 titans helplessly and apologetically, Ziji sighed deeply, and then left a little lonely. Suzanne. Let's just go. Where are you playing with me? Seeing the Demon Queen retreating, Suzanne felt incredible. He was already ready to fight the ferocious beast head on. The endurance of this mecha is at the quasi-god level, equivalent to an evolved version of the forward battle armor mecha. In short, he may not be able to beat Xian, and the energy just activated the super Douluo level. Suzanne couldn't understand why the opponent actually asked Ziji to retreat. Could it be that the protagonist's halo is so awesome? Poseidon's divine thought, you're awesome, second uncle, didn't you see me here? Seeing Ziji leaving, Xiao Wu's mother and others suddenly turned pale. Even though Ghost Douluo had been seriously injured, the new person who appeared was extremely powerful. To defeat the Titan giant ape, even if they work together, they probably won't be able to defeat each other. I'm not that unreasonable. I only need 3 soul beasts. Suzanne raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, Your Excellency, can't you let us go? Xiao Wu's mother gritted her teeth, and an inexplicable bitterness suddenly poured into her heart. We have always lived in the Star Forest and have never harmed humans. Why do humans have to suffer so much? Hearing this, Suzanne didn't answer why. He was a human being and a soul master, that's all. I advise you not to take action. I can still let one of you go, otherwise I wouldn't mind taking you all back. Noticing the small movements of the Titan ape and the Azure Bull Python, Suzanne's eyes narrowed, and his voice was like the cold wind passing through the glacier, and the 2 immediately stopped. Looks like it's up to me to choose for you. A cold voice rang out, and before everyone could react, bright energy exploded in the sky. Suddenly, everything was in confusion, and everyone's minds were in shock. When Bibi Dan came back to her senses and the scene before her eyes became clear, she found that she and others were actually placed in a wilderness. There is green grass on the ground, and you can see the end at a glance, and suddenly you can see the pine forest huddled together. Obviously, it is no longer within the Star Forest. The 3 of them looked at each other in shock. Before the 3 of them could react, a box was thrown over, and a voice sounded. This is a transformed soul beast. I'll give it to you as a soul ring. Looking intently at the figure inside the box, Bibi Dong's pupils suddenly shrank. An inexplicable surprise surged into her heart, and then her frown deepened. She is not someone who is dazzled by foreign objects. This is a 100,000-year soul beast, so she can give it to her as she says. Moreover, the other party should also know that the attack on the Xian Empire's army was their fault. They seemed like enemies but not friends. Bibi Dong did not believe that the other party was so kind. Of course, I also have conditions. Suzanne continued. Bibi Dong's eyes flashed, but she couldn't help but breathed a sigh of relief and replied in a deep voice. There were many misunderstandings about what happened before. Can you please speak up? First, Wuhan Palace must not take action against the Xian Empire again. I can agree. Hearing this, Bibi Dong didn't seem to have any hesitation and agreed directly. Suzanne was also stunned when he saw it. He didn't expect it to go so smoothly. In this world, strength speaks for itself. Bibi Dong knew this better than anyone else. The strength of the person in front of her should be among the ultimate Douluo, even more mysterious than Liu. On the premise that there is no absolute power to compete and kill the opponent, compromise is undoubtedly the best way. Just like when she faced Liu. As for the future, she doesn't care about any agreement. Dead people don't come to collect debts, right? Secondly, one day I will go to Wuhan Palace to get something. It belongs to me. You have to agree to it, Sue. Xian's eyes narrowed slightly, and powerful energy surged out from all sides of his body in an instant. Bibi Dong and the other three suddenly felt their hairs grow cold, and their expressions changed drastically. Bibi Dong took a deep breath, and forced herself to calm down. Can you tell me what exactly you left in the spirit hall? Something. You don't really need, Sue. Xian was motionless, floating in the air, and the sound of urn was heard. I agreed, although she was curious in her heart. Bibi Dong thought about it, and finally nodded and agreed. If it made the other party unhappy, it was not certain whether the three of them could go back. Besides, she knew the Wuhan Palace very well, and there seemed to be nothing more important than 100,000-year soul beast. Even if there is, it's probably with Douluo, so it's none of her business. I hope you remember. Let's go. Nodding with satisfaction, Suzanne's feet flashed with white light, and he disappeared in an instant. Looking at the things in her hands, Bibi Dong raised the corners of her mouth slightly, with joy in her eyes. Go back to the spirit hall. A cold voice sounded, and then Bibi Dong's figure took off directly, heading towards the Wuhan Palace. Ju Douluo and Ghost Douluo also followed immediately. Chapter 130, Too much pretense, and got slapped in the face. Wow, it feels so good to take the initiative, to catch 200,000-year soul beasts. After leaving her mother-in-law, Bibi Dong, and the other three, Suzanne felt a sense of joy in her heart. The cheating life is indeed so simple and unpretentious, that it makes it impossible for him to cultivate properly. Looking at Xiao Wu and the azure ball python sealed inside the box, Suzanne couldn't help feeling a little happy. As for the titan ape, the gorilla was left by Suzanne to look after the house and guard the courtyard, to prevent the secrets of the ferocious beast in the core area from being discovered by other soul masters. When the ferocious beasts go berserk and the beast tide comes, he will also feel a headache. You'd better continue to sleep. After a few years, I'll pluck out the hair on my legs and you won't be able to lift them up, so you can come out and wander around as you like. Daughter-in-law, we have 2 more 100,000-year soul beasts. Inexplicably excited, Suzanne put away the mecha, and at the same time, put away the vast sea universe cover, and released Xian Ringsu. Well, what's wrong with you? Noticing Xian Ringsu staring at him expresslessly, with a mixture of love and hate in her eyes, Suzanne was stunned for a moment, a little confused. Boom. Suddenly, Xian Ringsu rushed over and pushed Suzanne to the ground. Then she fell directly on Suzanne, her soft and boneless hands suppressing Suzanne's body. In an instant, Suzanne was stunned. Seeing this posture, Suzanne's face suddenly turned red. He didn't expect Xian Ringsu to be so tough. How could he endure it? After exerting a little force, he found that he could not move at all. Only then did Suzanne feel that Xian Ringsu's soul power was actually filling the air. Well, with a slightly stunned expression, Suzanne looked at Xian Ringsu biting her pink lips tightly, tears welling up in her eyes, as if she had suffered huge grievances, and couldn't help but feel soft in her heart. No, what's wrong with you, daughter-in-law? We husband and wife have something to discuss, he says. Soon as I finished speaking, I suddenly felt pain in my shoulder. The same position, the same feeling, just like the recipe for Laotan pickled cabbage noodles. Suzanne's face turned pale and convulsed, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. I go, wife, you are also an animal, come as soon as you say. Anyway, also give me some time to prepare. Just when Suzanne was about to give him a few words of instruction, suddenly there was a ticking sound, and the clothes on his shoulders were wet. A cool feeling of water flowed directly through the clothes to his skin. Suzanne looked stunned, and looked at Xian Ringsu out of the corner of his eye, and saw that his whole face was wet with tears, and the tears were flowing like beads with broken strings. There was no whimpering, and there was nothing more sad than the heart biting at him as hard as death. The silence was a bit scary, and Suzanne couldn't help but panic. Reaching out and hugging Xian Ringsu, Suzanne gritted his teeth, and seemed not to feel any pain. The only thing that hurt might be his heart. After a while, the bite force finally relaxed. After a while, Xian Ringsu's tears stopped flowing. Biting her pink lips, Xian Ringsu stared at Suzanne angrily. Did you already know this, and are you hiding it from me on purpose? Seeing Xian Ringsu's eyes turned red from crying, and her face mottled with tears, Suzanne's heart suddenly tightened. Seeing Suzanne reaching out, Xian Ringsu subconsciously wanted to avoid it, but in the end she let him wipe away her tears, staring at him with aggrieved and sad eyes. After hearing what Xian Ringsu said, Suzanne finally realized what the problem was. When I met Bibidang, Ghost Douluo and the others, as the eldest prince of the Xian Dao Empire's royal family, I could give them 100,000-year soul beast, even if I didn't take revenge. This is like a battle between two armies, and you send equipment to the enemy. Your brain is definitely going crazy. After comparing Bibidang's two requests, coupled with the previous conversation in the core area, it was obvious that he knew many secrets. Xian Ringsu is not a fool, so how could she not figure out what it means? Damn it. You pretended too much, and you really got slapped in the face. Well, the weather is pretty good today. Looking at the blue sky and white clouds, Suzanne scratched his head and couldn't help but admire. Stop, seeing Xian Ringsu asking Junzi to talk, but not take action again. Suzanne stopped her immediately. Her shoulders couldn't bear the trouble. I did already know that. Seeing Xian Ringsu breathing in the fragrance and glaring at him in shame, Suzanne nodded helplessly. So, you've been lying to me this whole time. Tears welled up in her eyes. Xian Ringsu felt a sting in her heart. Her eyes were red, and her sobbing voice was so heartbreaking. Your identity is too sensitive. If I knew it, who knows if you would leave me directly because of guilt. As long as I don't know, you can always stay undercover by my side and not return to Wuhan Palace. Suzanne stared blankly at Xian Ringsu, his eyes full of sincerity and fear. As he spoke, he hugged Xian Ringsu and held her in his arms. This is the first thing you lied to me about. I'm not even angry, and you can't be angry either. Like a child, Suzanne muttered, her words full of worry and distress, and she tightly hugged Xian Ringsu's waist to prevent her from leaving. Leaning closely against Suzanne's chest, Xian Ringsu felt Suzanne's tenderness and fear, and her heart became calmer suddenly. Tears flowed out uncontrollably. Xian Ringsu pursed her lips, feeling mixed emotions in her heart. She didn't know whether to be happy or worried, but the corners of her mouth could not help but raise point. Originally, she was most afraid that Suzanne would know her identity, but she didn't expect that he had known about it for a long time, but he had been deliberately hiding it from her. She just couldn't accept that she was deceived. She thought Suzanne was taking advantage of her, so she was heartbroken. Now that I think about it, it seems that I didn't do any harm, and that fool didn't care about his identity point. But you sure you don't have any thoughts about Wuhan Palace, so you want to take advantage of me? With eyes as cold as ice, Xian Ringsu stared at Suzanne, her face expressionless, with a frightening evil aura surging on her face. Seeing Xian Ringsu's fierce look, Suzanne felt a chill on her back and quickly waved her hand. How important is the Wuhan Palace to you? If I have thoughts about the Wuhan Palace, your grandfather can't defeat me now. Who can stop me? If it weren't for you and the attack on the army, I would have bulldozed the Wuhan Palace long ago. You dare. As soon as she finished speaking, Xian Ringsu suddenly bared her teeth, but her eyes were full of joy, as if she believed what Suzanne said. With you here, of course I wouldn't dare. Suzanne was very sincere, with a smile on his lips, and then pursued the victory and said, you saw that I just gave the betrothal gift to my mother-in-law, and she agreed. From today on, you are officially mine. Bah. Don't even think about it. I regret it now. Xian Ringsu spat, mumbling her little mouth, and pretending to be angry. She tried to get up with a blush on her face, but was firmly fixed by Suzanne and unable to move. I've given you the betrothal gift, so it's impossible for you to leave, Suzanne said ruthlessly. If you don't let go, I'll bite you again. Xian Ringsu said angrily. Just bite. If I shout oh ho ho you really bite, snapped. A crisp sound rang out, and Xian Ringsu said HMM. Her face red as blood, and she lay numbly on Suzanne's body, as if all her strength had been drained. Sure enough, with the family law in hand, I have the world. Chapter 131. Let Xiao Wu go, and let me do it. On the grass, Xian Ringsu, dressed in a palace dress, lay on Suzanne's body, her long silky golden hair scattered, as lazy as a kitten, and her heart had never felt so peaceful. Now That I'm showing off my cards. What are you going to do to me? Drawing circles on Suzanne's chest with her fingers. Qian Ringsu looked like she was marrying a chicken, a dog, a dog. Her face was calm and warm, and she murmured a question. Of course it's Jinwu Kangjiao. I won't let you go back to Wuhan Hall anyway. Even if you want to run away, I will tie you back. Suzanne replied meticulously. Seeing Qian Ringsu holding her head with her little hands, her bright eyes, white teeth, and sexy pink lips, Suzanne couldn't help but pinch her little mouth. You are so domineering. Qian Ringsu patted Suzanne's chest, feeling joyful but with an inexplicable sadness and anger, as if she felt that her fate had been pinned on someone else. I'm serious. What exactly are you going to do to me and Wu Hundian? Qian Ringsu then asked. You can continue to be your princess. My mother-in-law is watching over here at Wuhan Palace. As long as she doesn't take action against the Xian Dao Empire, it doesn't matter, even if she unifies the Star Luo Empire. Of course, I wouldn't mind if you took over the Wuhan Palace. Stroking Qian Ringsu's hair, Suzanne spoke seriously, and at the end of the sentence, the corner of her mouth even broke out into a smirk. What a beautiful idea you have. I think you just want to use me to control the spirit hall. Huh? Qian Ringsu couldn't help but roll her eyes at Suzanne, and replied coquettishly, her eyes full of vigilance, as if she was joking or torturing him. Why is this called taking advantage? Suzanne's face straightened up, and he immediately retorted, can the property between husband and wife be called their own? Just like when I gave you the soul guide, the formation, and the attached soul bone, it didn't hurt at all. You are so shameless. Qian Ringsu said shyly and angrily, looking at the guy in front of her with her round autumn eyes. She felt that she had fallen into someone's sweet trap, and was trapped in a trap that she couldn't extricate herself from. I'm shameless? Suzanne was immediately frightened and pointed at himself in disbelief. What did he think about Wuhan Palace? It's not good at all. That's my wife's thing. How can I have any thoughts about it? Just have your own thoughts about her. When it comes to big things, a wife has to listen to her husband, right? Looking at Qian Ringsu with blank eyes, Suzanne said, then you return my soul guide, formation, and external soul bone to me. We husband and wife should divide the premarital property and postmarital property first, so that you don't have to worry about it later. Call me shameless, don't want. Hearing this, Qian Ringsu turned her mouth into a stern face and refused directly. What a joke. She knew that Suzanne had many treasures here, but her little rich lady didn't take them seriously, so how could she hand them over to her snort? It's impossible to kill him. Will you hand it over or not? Suzanne said viciously, but his hands were wrapped around Qian Ringsu's waist. In an instant, Qian Ringsu laughed so hard that her branches trembled, and she began to writhe in Suzanne's arms. I won't hand it over, you already gave it to me. Even though she kept laughing wildly, Qian Ringsu refused to change her words, her pretty face full of stubbornness. If you don't hand me over, I'll take care of you. You won't give up, even if you hit me. After playing around with Qian Ringsu for a while, Suzanne's expression became serious. You haven't absorbed the external soul bone yet, right? Suzanne asked. Well, I was afraid that you would find out, so I didn't absorb it. Lying in his arms, Qian Ringsu nodded honestly. It just so happens that I plan to absorb 100,000-year soul ring. You should also absorb the attached soul bone. Suzanne said bluntly. Qian Ringsu was stunned for a moment, then asked, you are only at level 40 with soul power, so how can you absorb 100,000-year soul ring? Frowning, Qian Ringsu looked at Suzanne with astonishment, but seeing his serious look, she suddenly became curious. It's true that I can't absorb it, but that doesn't mean they can Suzanne said with a bad smile. You mean sacrifice? However, they should hate you to death. How could they sacrifice to you? Qian Ringsu was full of surprise. Just watch it. 5 minutes later, a hidden formation was created outside the Vast Sea Universe cover, and Suzanne brought Qian Ringsu to the inside of the Vast Sea Universe cover. Immediately, Suzanne lifted the seal from the azure ball python in the seal box, allowing it to gain its own consciousness. Human, where is this? Sensing the terror inside the vast sea cosmic barrier, the azure ball python's frightened voice suddenly sounded. He just felt like he had had a long dream, and when he woke up, he found that he was no longer in the star forest. To tell you the truth, this is the inheritance space of Poseidon. I'm Poseidon's designated successor, a man who will become a god in the future. Xian shouted domineeringly, and at the end of his speech, he couldn't help but glance at Xue, full of profound meaning. Hearing this, the azure ball python was immediately frightened. Looking at the vast sea universe cover, he felt even more frightened. The level of gods is the ultimate goal that they can reach only by transforming into soul beasts. The person in front of them is actually the descendant of gods. The azure ball python couldn't help but take a breath of air. No wonder the opponent was so strong. Behind him, there was actually a god standing. Seeing the appearance of the azure ball python, Xian knew that it was about to become lame due to being fooled by him. It's time to strike while the iron is hot. After all, this guy's IQ is higher than that of the Titan ape. Just now in the star forest, that was God's will that resided in me. I believe you have now seen how terrifying a little bit of God's power can be, and I'm just a soul master with a soul power of 40, so God took action to help me hunt the soul beasts so that I could inherit the divine throne. As he said that, in order to prove his innocence, Xian released his soul ring with great sincerity. That's right. It was Poseidon who possessed him just now, otherwise how could he be so powerful? Seeing that Xian was really only the third ring, azure ball python was also very surprised, and couldn't help but believe it in his heart. From within the vast sea universe cover, he did feel a terrifying power, especially since it was originally an aquatic creature. This feeling was even more obvious. Sacred, yet inviolable. So, I need 100,000-year soul ring now. I asked Xue just now, and she said that, as long as I let you go, she would be willing to sacrifice to me. I'm very touched by this, but this is your business after all, so I still have to listen to your opinion. So, Xian's face was sincere, and his realistic look that was considering you fully explained what acting was, and Xue also smiled. Xue hearing this, azure ball python's eyes were also sparkling with tears. He didn't expect that Xue actually cared about him so much and was willing to sacrifice for him. Don't worry. After the sacrifice, you can save her. When I become a god in the future, I will respect her wishes and let you go later. Xian said cautiously. No. Let Xue go, and let me do it. Thanks to my wife, Little Lucky, and Feng Lingsu, for the reward. Please subscribe, vote monthly, and reward. Chapter 130 to the fourth soul ring, 100,000 years. Seeing that Daming agreed immediately, Xian was overjoyed, but instead frowned and said hesitantly, I think it seems a little inappropriate. Xue has already agreed. Otherwise, I can talk to her again. After all, I think she seems to care about you. She just cried and wanted to sacrifice. From Xian's words, a figure immediately appeared in front of Daming's eyes. His eyes became moist, and he quickly begged, no, just don't tell her, just say that I have escaped. I don't want her to worry. He knew Xue's temperament. If she heard that she was making a sacrifice, she would stop him desperately, and she would definitely sacrifice herself when the time came. In this case, it is better to let him sacrifice. Just now he had ingested venom while lurking in the lake, and then he was stabbed in the body by Bibidong's 8th soul skill Spider King clone in the lake. In his current situation, if there were no herbs to suppress the toxins, he probably wouldn't be able to live long. It would be better to sacrifice him so that Xue could survive. This is not good. So, Xian still didn't want to agree, and Daming's voice immediately rang. Please agree and never let her know. Alas, hearing this, Xian couldn't help but feel a little moved. Sometimes the feelings of soul beasts are more real than those of humans. Taking advantage of their feelings made him look worse than a beast. I believe everyone really likes to see him being worse than a beast, especially with Xue. I promised that if I become a god in the future, I will definitely resurrect you. Xian promised sternly. Of course, who knows whether he will become a god or not in the future? After all, my wife is too powerful, and the soft rice seems to be more delicious. With that said, Suzanne directly released Damning. The latter's huge body appeared, and the space of the vast sea universe cover also became huge. Thank you. Looking at Suzanne, Damning showed no intention of attacking. He sighed leisurely and closed his eyes. Boom. A red light suddenly appeared between Damning's brows, lighting up the entire vast sea universe cover. The red flames burned on it, and the brilliant colors even covered the blue water in the space. This is not a simple flame, but a blood flame, burning their lives, blood and 100,000 years of cultivation. Seeing Damning's sacrifice, Xian Ringsu stared curiously, paying attention to the surrounding movements. For fear that someone would disturb Suzanne. The red flames became more and more intense, and Damning's huge body became more and more transparent, like a red crystal. He looked down at Xiao Wu in the sealed box, and there seemed to be a smile in his eyes. In an instant, red light exploded, turning into a red soul ring, and covering Suzanne's body. And then a blood red soul bone merged into Suzanne's right arm. Human, I hope you can keep your promise. A long voice sounded, and the huge body of the azure bull python disappeared, leaving a small green snake on the ground, and the light on its body also dissipated. Feeling the increase in soul power in her body, Suzanne couldn't help but smile with joy. Seemingly noticing something was wrong, Suzanne immediately lowered his head and looked down. The blood red azure bull python's right arm bone shone together with the dark gold red claw metacarpal bone point. But what is surprising is that the blood red azure bull python soul bone actually glows and is actually golden, but the metacarpal bones are still dark gold. Suddenly, Suzanne's arm began to heat up, and something seemed to be stirring in his arm. His face also turned pale, and he gritted his teeth tightly, as if he was in great pain, and the muscles on his face were beating spasmodically. Are you okay? Seeing Suzanne's accident, Xian Ringsu became anxious immediately. She didn't know what happened, and didn't know what to do. She could only stare and feel anxious. Fortunately, the pain went away as quickly as it came. Suzanne waved his hand to express that he was fine, but his eyes were on his arm. A trace of golden liquid seeped out from the azure bull python's right arm bone and squirmed along Suzanne's arm. Everywhere he went, Suzanne could feel it heating up, but the temperature was not high. I don't know if Suzanne ate 3 fairy grasses and his body became immune to water and fire. In order to observe further, Suzanne took off his shirt, revealing his muscular body, which made Xian Ringsu blush. The golden liquid was seen flowing along the arm, and finally came to Suzanne's back. Although he could no longer see it, his ribs were heating up. With a flash of his eyes, Suzanne released his martial spirit. The originally soft and loose feathers were now neatly arranged in rows and rows, looking airtight. With the appearance of the attached soul bone and martial arts spirit, the golden liquid seemed to have found an outlet, and blended directly into the wings immediately. Tiny golden threads appeared on the wings, emitting a faint halo. How do you feel? Xian Ringsu asked quickly. I don't feel anything, but I think the wings feel very powerful. Suzanne shook his head. His intuition told him that it should be a good thing. Hearing this, Xian Ringsu felt relieved. Looking at the red soul ring under Suzanne's feet, she couldn't help but feel a little envious and happy. You already have 100,000-year soul ring for your 4th soul ring. It will be troublesome for you to find a soul ring in the future. Xian Ringsu teased with a smile. Isn't this because of you? You are more powerful than me. What are we husband and wife afraid of? Xian replied nonchalantly. There were not many 100,000-year soul beasts. Even if he had one more martial soul, it would be more than enough. You also know that my soul power is higher than yours, and you bully me every time. Xian Ringsu snorted dissatisfied, her face slightly red. Hearing this, Suzanne smiled without saying a word, rubbed her face, and said with a smile, you should also absorb the external soul bones. I will try the soul skills I obtained. Aha. Xian Ringsu nodded, and then took out the wings of the Gifalcon with attached soul bone. Suzanne left the vast sea universe cover, but did not remove the formation outside. 4 soul rings appeared on the soles of the feet, 1 yellow, 2 purple, and 1 red. There was no black soul ring in the middle. It looked strange, no matter how you looked at it. The red soul ring lit up, and cyan lightning began to appear on Suzanne's body. A giant cyan dragon with wings roared out of the lightning, roaring directly forward. The lightning directly scorched the surrounding grass black, and the overwhelming energy of the giant dragon was extremely majestic. Especially the destructive aura on its body was frightening. Before the dragon's attack came, Xian had already stopped his soul skills and his face became a little pale. The 100,000-year-old soul skill is too terrifying, and the soul power required is also extremely large. It is not something that his level 43 soul power can withstand. If he releases it twice at most, I am afraid the soul power in his body will be gone. Thanks to Xian Ming for the reward. Chapter 133 Thought 128 Too many nosebleeds. 8-winged angel. The soul of the two-winged azure dragon. This is one of the 4th soul skills obtained by Xian, and is somewhat similar to the blue-silver azure dragon soul obtained by Tang San. The difference is that Qinghe has wings on its body, making it look more powerful and domineering. Note, Qinghe had wings. Although it does not increase the power of the attack, it greatly increases the speed of the attack, making it more offensive. As for Xian's other soul skill, it is a control soul skill. It's called the Winged Azure Dragon's Roar. It uses the powerful dragon roar to put the opponent into a brief daze. The specific time depends on the level of the martial spirit. The shortest is 3 seconds. Especially the beast martial spirit is extremely suppressed. As for the soul bone skills, since they are inherited from soul beasts and have little to do with their own martial arts, they are basically similar to those of Tang San in the original work. 2 Strong attack skills and 2 control skills. They are very balanced and powerful. Unfortunately, his soul power is too low, and he needs the help of a milk bottle. Sigh, isn't it nice to unleash his ultimate move infinitely? Forget about the soul bone skill test. Xian didn't want to exhaust himself. Returning to the vast sea universe cover, seeing Xian still absorbing the attached soul bone, Xian sat quietly aside, but his eyes were looking at Xian, obviously with some evil intentions. It's not like her face was so beautiful originally, and I don't know how beautiful she turned out to be. With his eyes focused, Xian secretly made up his mind to let Xian show his true colors later as a husband. How can you not know the true face of your wife? How unbecoming is this? He doesn't care about beauty, he just wants to remember his wife's appearance in the future. Looking at the seal box on the side, Xian put it away with a wave of his hand. He originally planned to auction it, but now he has changed his mind. The auction is too cruel. Who knows what kind of beastly things those titled Douluo will do to Xiao Wu. Should something come first and then something, or something come first and something come last? This may involve ethical issues. It's better to let her continue to seal it, and when the time comes, let them reunite together. It will be more lively if the 3 red soul rings are together. After sitting, Xian felt a little sleepy, so she lay down on the carpet and fell asleep. I don't know how long it took, but suddenly a burst of itching came from her face, and Xian couldn't help but sneeze. After rubbing her nose, Xian hugged the pillow and continued to sleep without opening her eyes at all. This guy. Seeing Xian sleeping so soundly, Xian couldn't help laughing. She glanced at the 4 pairs of wings on her body, and her eyes revealed uncontrollable joy. Xian slept soundly, and Xian did not disturb him anymore, and covered him with a blanket. A few hours later, seeing Xian staring at her eagerly as soon as she woke up, and asking to see her true face, Xian felt dumbfounded. You've known for a long time that I'm pretending now? Xian asked with an inexplicable glint in her eyes. Of course, you see how beautiful your mother-in-law is, so your appearance is definitely no worse than hers. Xian replied seriously. Remember not to mention her in the future, otherwise I will fall out with you. Xian snorted dissatisfiedly, and then her face changed into a smile at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if she was pleased to admire Xian's eyes. Xian, sure enough, the woman has changed, and she likes to praise her for her beauty. Do you really want to see it? Don't be shocked. Xian said somewhat smugly. Yeah. Xian nodded quickly and stared at it without blinking, almost taking out his camera to record the wonderful moments. Well, Ying smiled, and suddenly a bright golden light burst out from Xian body, and Xian couldn't see clearly what was ahead. After a while, the light dissipated, and a charming figure suddenly appeared in front of Xian. Xian Ringsu was still wearing a gold palace dress, but her appearance was different. To be precise, it has become more beautiful. Her long pale golden hair turned into bright golden color and was scattered randomly on the back of her head. The 8 wings on her back were also brilliant and transparent golden color, making her look energetic and noble. She has also become much taller, even taller than Suzanne. She is so slim that the hem of her skirt cannot cover her long legs, and Suzanne's nose feels a little hot. Her skin is still that white and flawless, with a hint of fandom in her tenderness, and it always seems like she is smiling shyly at you. Especially the face has become more delicate, like white jade soaked in milk. Under the eyebrows, the golden eyes have an alluring magic that makes people unable to take their eyes away. Her cheeks are freshly peeled. Her nose is greasy with goose fat. Everything is so perfect. It seems charming but not charming. It seems delicate but not delicate. Like a flower blooming that will bring disaster to the country. Suzanne finally understood what the words causing disaster to the country and the people meant. When her nose became hot, Suzanne felt a thick liquid pouring out, and she wiped it subconsciously, only to realize that it was actually blood. Ahem. I'm full of blood, and the weather is hot, so I'm a little angry. Xian explained awkwardly, and quickly took out a handkerchief to cover his nose, but his eyes were staring at Xian Ringsu, for fear of missing a glance. PFFT. Seeing Suzanne's dull look, Xian Ringsu burst out laughing. She covered her face with her hands and smiled brightly. Looking at Xian Ringsu, Suzanne felt her blood surge, and she became even more impulsive. It seemed that she wanted to throw her to the ground, and then, "You'd better change back. I'm afraid I can't bear it anymore," Suzanne said quickly. Spit. Noticing Suzanne's embarrassment, Xian Ringsu was startled. Then her eyes moved slightly downward. Her face suddenly turned blood red, and she secretly spat in annoyance. While cursing dirty and shameless in her heart, Xian Ringsu quickly changed back to her original appearance, fearing that Suzanne couldn't help teasing and torturing her. Ahem. What? I can't help myself. I can't help myself. While coughing in embarrassment, Suzanne quickly sat down and covered his thighs with a blanket. Shameless and obscene. With her face red and ears red, Xian Ringsu didn't dare to look at Suzanne at all. She just felt that her heart was beating fast, as if it would jump out at any time. The atmosphere suddenly became awkward. By the way, I think you seem to have more wings. Suzanne looked a little unnatural and quickly changed the subject. Xian Ringsu lowered her head and slightly gently, explaining absent-mindedly, this external soul bone is not fused with my original wings. Instead, it is rendered golden by my martial spirit, and seems to form a whole. But it's still an external soul bone. There's nothing special about the combination of the two. It just greatly improves my speed. Hearing this, Suzanne couldn't help but nodded. Orthodox speaking, seraphs are the limit, and 8-winged angels are unlikely to appear. The evolution of a martial spirit requires energy stimulation, not just adding a pair of wings. Thank you, Abe, for the 10,000 reward. I will make up for it tonight, if I need it. Chapter 134 Holy Soul Village. Check-in. The Fasno province is located to the south and west of the Xiandao Empire, and is a large province under the control of the empire. Along the parallel border between the two empires, Suzanne came here for the first time. They were not in a hurry. Instead, the two of them seemed to be out for a trip, stopping along the way. 3 days later, Suzanne and the two came to a small village. The village has an extremely resounding name, called Holy Soul Village. It is said that a soul saint appeared in the village, so it is very proud of it. Old village chief, a guest is here. Hearing the roaring sound outside the door, an old man immediately walked out of his yard. The old man looked to be in his 60s, with a slender figure, but a strong spirit. Although he was wearing coarse clothes, he was clean and tidy and took care of himself meticulously. Kinlaozan, you kid, don't you know how to keep your voice down? My ears. The cursing voices became quieter and louder, and the village leader Jack looked at Suzanne and the two of them, his expression becoming more and more solemn. His eyes glanced at Suzanne and their clothes. Jack's eyes flashed, and he immediately came over quickly. I wonder what important matters the two distinguished guests have come to our village. Although Suzanne and the two had changed into ordinary clothes. The ordinary clothes of the royal family were not something ordinary people could wear. Old Jack is indeed an old man, and he can tell at a glance that their identities are unusual. Seeing Jack's reserved expression, Suzanne was also looking at him curiously. This old man, who was known as the strongest man in Douluo continent. Tang Heo, your life is over like this. This is such a classic sentence. Maybe he will see this scene. The two of us plan to stay in the village for a while. Please ask the village chief to prepare a house for us. With that said, Suzanne took out 30 gold coins, which made the village chief and Qinhe on the side widen their eyes. This is a gold coin. My lord, this money is too much. With a flash of fiery greed in his eyes, the village chief Jack finally shook his head, making Qinhe furious. Noticing Qinhe scratching his head and head, the village chief Jack couldn't help but shook his head. Today's young man really doesn't know the rules at all. It is our greatest honor that you can come to our village. How can we accept your money? The village chief continued, his face full of sincerity and respect. Noticing that the village chief always glanced at the gold coins vaguely from the corner of his eye, Suzanne smiled and said, just keep the money. I will live here for a while. Please replace all the furniture with new ones. If the money is not enough, come back and ask me for it. That's enough. That's enough. Don't worry, don't talk about the furniture. Even if I build a new courtyard for you in the next 2 days, it won't be a problem. Seeing that Suzanne and the two were not joking, but actually planning to live here, old Jack felt relieved and quickly assured. After finishing speaking, old Jack looked at Qinhe aside, and the majesty of the village chief burst out in an instant. Qinhe, go and vacate the yard I built for you two adults. Remember to replace everything with new ones. Okay. After taking a deep look at the gold coins on the table, Qinhe immediately ran away quickly. To adults, the courtyard is simple. You can rest here for a while. You can move in later. In the blink of an eye, old Jack's face was replaced with a warm smile, and he said with a smile, the villagers were very efficient in doing things. They had already finished everything in 2 hours. Some of the things were bought non-stop from the city, and some were made by the carpenters in the village. It was a small courtyard that looked relatively quiet. It was surrounded by a wooden fence, and contained 3 bright colored huts. There was a stream flowing through the door. It seemed that the village chief was also someone who would enjoy it. After looking at the small courtyard, Xian raised her eyebrows and asked, why don't you go to Notting City ahead? I'll take you to experience the life of ordinary people. You won't feel it when you return to Xian City. Suzanne said with a smile. I do not believe. Xian immediately rejected it. She looked at Suzanne and seemed to realize something. I think you brought me to Fasno province just to come here, right? Well, Suzanne subconsciously touched her nose, but she didn't expect Xian to notice it. Sure enough, her daughter-in-law is stupider than anyone else when she needs to be stupid, and she is smarter than anyone else when she needs to be smart. Seeing that Suzanne's actions betrayed him, Xian smiled, reached out and took his arm, her bright eyes full of curiosity, and asked coquettishly, then what's so special about this place? After hearing this, Suzanne immediately released the Qiankan barrier of beyond the vast sea, isolating the two figures from the outside world. Unable to help but do so, Suzanne also set up a formation to isolate everything from the outside world. So careful? Seeing that Suzanne was so serious about her matter, Qian became even more curious, her bright eyes sparkling. I told you, don't get excited. Suzanne reminded. Yeah. Qian nodded seriously, but stared at him unblinkingly. Tang Heo is in this village. Suzanne said bluntly, looking at Qian reaction. As expected, Qian pupils suddenly shrank, her face turned pale with shock, and she was dumbfounded. But after being frightened, a piercing killing intent suddenly burst out. She gritted her teeth, her face became distorted with anger, and her eyes were bloodshot and red. Tang Heo. Seeing Qian appearance, Suzanne felt helpless and distressed. Qian was not originally killed by Tang Heo, but he couldn't say otherwise. Otherwise it would involve some past events. Her biological mother killed Qian own biological father. If this was exposed, it would be Xian Ringsu who would be tortured. Therefore, not only could he not say it, even Bibi Dan would rather rot in his stomach than say it out. Xian Zunji was killed by Tang Heo. Now and in the future, no refutation will be accepted. Hugging Xian Ringsu, Suzanne stroked her back and comforted her. Don't be too excited. Your business is my business. I will definitely avenge you. His expression softened slightly, but tears of hatred still welled up from Xian Ringsu's eyes. She didn't let go of her clenched teeth, and her eyes were still full of resentment and bloodthirsty. Her urge for revenge was somewhat uncontrollable, and she wanted to kill Tang Heo immediately. Although Xian Zunji ignored her, she was still her father after all, and she would not be a human being unless she avenged this revenge. Looking at how many times you've cried in just a few days, you're not afraid of turning into a little cat, because you still have me. After a while, Suzanne let go of her. Seeing her tearful face, he kissed her face distressedly, and then wiped away her sad tears. Chapter 135. Please come out, the grave has been dug. On the west side of Holy Soul Village, on the hillside at the head of the village, there are 3 adobe houses. There is a sign hanging on the roof in the middle with a simple hammer drawn on it, which in this world refers to the identity of a blacksmith. At the other end, 2 figures walked slowly on the winding road. I saw an old man holding a cane, following the young man respectfully, a step or 2 behind. Seeing old Jack's appearance, the villagers he knew didn't dare to go up to say hello, but just watched from a distance. Sir, although that guy doesn't have a very good temper, the things he makes are very durable. All kinds of iron tools in our village are made by him, old Jack assured. It doesn't matter if it's not easy to use. After all, it's the work of a master craftsman. Suzanne muttered to himself, then waved his hand, as if nothing happened, and said, what I want to build are just some ordinary things, and ordinary blacksmiths can also build them. Hey. Hearing this, old Jack chuckled, and did not continue to boast. After all, Suzanne looked like a nobleman. If he blew it, it would be embarrassing if Tang Heo couldn't do it. Tang Heo, I have introduced a business to you. Come out and meet the customer. Just as he arrived in front of Tang Heo's house, without even entering the yard, old Jack's angry roar rang out. In addition to the original anger in his voice, it also seemed to convey a meaning. Not only would this business be bad, it would also get him into trouble. Hiccup. After a while, there seemed to be some movement in the house. Then, the door was pushed open with a creak sound, which sounded very scary due to its age and disrepair. A figure of middle-aged man walked out, and Suzanne's eyes were focused as he looked at the youngest, titled Douluo. Wearing a torn robe, the solid arms were exposed and were bronze. His complexion and skin were like yellow wax, looking very rough. He was holding a wine flask in his hand, and his complexion was slightly red under the irrigation of the wine. He was drunk, his eyes were hazy, his hair was as messy as a bird's nest, and his originally sharp eyes were now cloudy and dull. The tangy smell of alcohol hit his nostrils, carrying the sour smell of bad wine. Not only old Jack, but also Suzanne couldn't help but frown. Looking at Tang Heo, Suzanne couldn't help but shake his head. They are the same father and son, but they have completely different attitudes when facing the sacrifice of their lover. Tang San's final success is not unreasonable. Just like a martial spirit, the clear sky hammer is too strong and easily broken. The blue silver grass is resilient, wildfire cannot burn it out, and it will grow again when the spring breeze blows. Sensing something was wrong, a bright light seemed to flash in Tang Heo's eyes. He stared at Suzanne, and seemed to feel something familiar. He frowned slightly, the drunkenness on his face disappeared in an instant, and his eyes revealed a cold look. Seeing that Tang Heo not only refused to entertain, but actually stared at the guests, old Jack suddenly became anxious and reprimanded. Tang Heo, this is a big shot from the city, and he came to you specifically to make utensils. Cold. Eyes swept over old Jack's face, and the latter suddenly shuddered. Huge fear could not help but emerge in his heart, and he subconsciously took 2 steps back. We won't be accepting guests today, so let's go. Ignoring Jack, Tang Heo stared at Suzanne with an expressionless face, and there seemed to be a hint of blackness lingering on his face that showed no emotion or anger, and he refused the guest without any courtesy and roared. After speaking, Tang Heo ignored the 2 of them, without looking back. and walked directly into the house with a bang. Tang Heo, what's wrong with you? You're an alcoholic, and don't eat yourself. Can't you make some money to give the mistress some meat to replenish her body? First he was shocked, and now his good intentions were trampled under his feet. Old Jack suddenly became angry and started to curse. If you weren't the only blacksmith in the village, and you had a child with you, how could I bring you business? Depend on. I'm so blind. Village chief, I came to make an agreement with him. You can go back first. Seeing old Jack's indignant look, Suzanne waved his hand and said, grown-ups. Letting Suzanne stay here. Old Jack was really afraid that Tang Heo's bad temper would cause trouble, but seeing that Suzanne's face showed no doubt, he couldn't say much. Tang Heo, I'm leaving. Please take care of this business yourself. After giving a reminder to the room, old Jack sighed helplessly and left directly with his cane. The courtyard suddenly became silent. Suzanne was not in a hurry. He found a clean stone and sat down, looking at everything around him with interest. Who would have thought that Haoshan Douluo, who was so majestic back then, would actually live in seclusion in such a dilapidated small village. One of the 3 great master craftsmen, he actually makes money by making shovels and farm tools, drinks the cheapest and most cheap wine, and lives a life that is neither human nor ghost. Such a pity. We are destined not to be on the same road, and we will not be able to walk together otherwise. Senior, do you want to find another place to live in seclusion now? Suzanne couldn't help but ask. How did you find this place? When the cold voice came, Suzanne felt a chill in her heart and quickly turned her head to look over. Tang Heo appeared behind him at some point, his turbid eyes flashing coldly, with a domineering aura and seemingly endless loneliness, which seemed a bit contradictory. There was something going on at the border. I happened to be here. I heard the senior's name on the way, so I came over to take a look. Suzanne replied without blushing or heartbeat. Hearing this, Tang Heo stared at Suzanne coldly, not believing what he said at all. Notting City is too remote, and he is in a village with little contact with other people. Most people will never find it. Even the dignified prince of the empire would not find him here. Young man, I advise you that it is best to leave. Tang Heo shouted coldly. His body couldn't help but exude a trace of white murderous aura, and his face was as cold as a piece of ice. Senior, don't worry. I won't reveal your whereabouts. Although the Haoshan sect supports the Star Luo Empire, we all have a common enemy now, don't we? Suzanne replied without changing his expression. Well, speak human words when you meet people, and speak nonsense when you meet ghosts. This is a necessary skill for an acting protagonist. Wuhan Palace. Tang Heo's eyes condensed, and the past events in his heart came to mind again. His eyes were bloodshot, like a crazed lion. Seeing Tang Heo like this, Suzanne understood more and more that he should kill the guy in front of him, otherwise keeping him would be a big disaster. Senior, I came to you this time to ask you to come out. With your reputation, you will be able to intimidate Wuhan Palace and make them dare not act recklessly. Suzanne looked sincere, spoke righteously, and begged earnestly. He looked like he was righteous for the country and the people's livelihood, but in his heart he was thinking about how to kill the other party. I no longer care about the affairs of the Soul Master world. Now I'm just an ordinary blacksmith. You have found the wrong person. Clenching his fists, Tang Heo's eyes shone, as if he was thinking of those turbulent years. Finally, he shook his head, his face full of loneliness. It didn't matter how bright it was, it didn't matter if it protected thousands of people, but it still couldn't protect her alone. As old Jack said, he is just a waste now. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 136. The Clear Sky Hammer lost to the chopper? Despite Suzanne's various persuasion, Tang Heo remained indifferent, and Suzanne had no choice but to sigh helplessly and give up the idea that did not exist in his heart. Since Senior is unwilling to come out, can you build 2 things for me? Suzanne asked again. What do you want to hit? Seeing the disappointment on Suzanne's face, Tang Heo remained indifferent, but he did not refuse Suzanne's request. I want to build 2 things. The first one is the clear sky hammer, and the second one is a kitchen knife. Suzanne said bluntly. Clear sky hammer, kitchen knife. Hearing these 2 unrelated things, Tang Heo was stunned, and a look of surprise flashed across his face. What do you want them for? Tang Heo poured a sip of wine into his mouth and let the wine stain his beard. He ignored it, and asked with a frown. The former is for commemoration, and the latter is just for cooking. I plan to stay here for a few days and experience the life of the people, but I have never been able to find a suitable kitchen knife. Suzanne's expression didn't change, and she didn't even mean to lie when she said this. Suzanne took out 2 pieces of metal from the storage ring. With a bang, 2 pieces of metal, one large and one small, fell to the ground. They were black and shiny. The large piece was as big as a bathtub, and was extremely dense. The small piece seemed a little different. It looked extremely black. It fell and was directly embedded in the ground. At the same time, a chill also spread from the stone. Zuanta, cold heart iron essence. Seeing the 2 things, Tang Heo's pupils shrank suddenly, his eyes focused on the small piece of metal that was only the size of a vegetable bowl, and he couldn't help but exclaimed. For this big piece of black iron, I asked my senior to forge a clear sky hammer for me. Although I failed to successfully ask my senior to come out, I'm extremely lucky to be able to get the clear sky hammer made by my senior during this trip. With admiration in his eyes, Suzanne paused slightly, then said, as for this small piece of cold iron essence, the cold can keep the ingredients fresh, so it is perfect for making kitchen knives. It's a pity that there are not many people in the world who are as skilled as my senior and can easily polish this piece of cold-hearted iron. Hearing Suzanne's logical words and praise, Tang Heo felt no joy in his heart, as if he had a strange feeling. Black iron is used to make the clear sky hammer, and Hanxin iron, which is 10 times more valuable, is used to make a kitchen knife. Damn it. Is it that the clear sky hammer has depreciated less than a kitchen knife, or is the value of a kitchen knife about to skyrocket? Exclamation mark. If Suzanne hadn't said something reasonable, Hanxin iron spirit was indeed not suitable for the domineering clear sky hammer, Tang Heo would have felt insulted, and would have refused. Can you cook? Seemingly realizing something was wrong, Tang Heo frowned and asked curiously. I've learned a little bit. If senior likes it, I can send some over for him to try later. Suzanne replied with a smile. That aristocratic look seemed to come out from his bones, which was pleasing to the eye. No need. Tang Heo shook his head and directly rejected Suzanne's kindness. Hearing this, Suzanne was not surprised at all. A master has the demeanor of master. If he can accept other people's food like this, do you think everyone else is a foodie? However, in order to show respect, Suzanne would still deliver this meal. In ancient times, when people were about to die, they still had a good meal. And the strong will also die in their own way. Here is the reward. Please accept it, senior. Seeing that Tang Heo did not refuse, and had already won the battle, Suzanne immediately took out some food from the storage ring, and placed it on the stone table nearby. There are various kinds of pastries, candies, milk, and of course fine wine, all of which he bought in the last city. On seeing the reward that Suzanne gave out, which was worth less than 50 gold coins, Tang Heo's eyes flashed with astonishment, but he didn't have any dislike, and felt very satisfied in his heart. Money no longer means much to him, but these things are good rewards. After all, he has a child. Old Jack's words are not unreasonable. Then, I'll take my leave. Nodding slightly, Suzanne immediately left Tang Heo's simple courtyard. Come here tomorrow to get your stuff. After walking a long way, a domineering voice came to his ears, as if it was transmitted directly into Suzanne's mind, and no one else noticed it. Hearing this, Suzanne also smiled. He had already had the tombstone built, so Tang Heo would not let him down. After all, it was for his own use, so he had to make some snacks himself. After returning home, before Suzanne entered the yard, Xian Ringsu came to greet her. His expression was 3 parts curious, 3 parts surprised, and 4 parts worried. A model of a virtuous, and good wife. She is worthy of being his wife. How is it Xian Ringsu asked hurriedly, with suppressed hatred and anger in her eyes. Tang Heo is indeed here. Let's wait until he packs his things tomorrow. Suzanne pointed to the sky and replied. Seeing Suzanne's gesture, Xian Ringsu immediately understood and did not continue to ask about the matter. After all, titled Douluo's perception is extremely sharp. Who knows if Tang Heo has any suspicion of spying on them? Holding Xian Ringsu's waist with her hands, Suzanne stared at her blankly, with a smirk on her face and said, look at all the things I've done for you. Why don't you express your gratitude? Don't want. Seeing Suzanne's fiery gaze, Xian Ringsu trembled in her heart. She didn't know what Suzanne meant. She quickly turned away, and her face turned red. Suzanne, I say no every time, but I'm actually more honest than anyone else. Snort, woman. Do you want me to use family methods again? Suzanne raised his eyebrows and raised his palm slightly. You. Xian Ringsu was ashamed and angry, but looking at Suzanne's threatening eyes, although she was angry, she still chose to compromise. Is this okay? Xian Ringsu's face was hot and red, and her Kyushu eyes looked at Suzanne with a touch of charm, feeling ashamed and angry. Okay, I'll let you go. After rubbing Xian Ringsu's pretty face, Suzanne laughed generously. When played for a while, but the taste was not enough for outsiders to understand. Suzanne came to the yard, took a dagger, and began to practice carving on the stone slab. Xian Ringsu put her chin in her hands and sat quietly aside like a flower, with a smile on her face. It seemed that, no matter what Suzanne was doing, except for women, she would feel curious and happy. Chapter 137 Night Interlude 4. The night is long, and those who are heartless often sleep soundly, but those who have things on their minds can't fall asleep no matter what. Just like Xian Ringsu at this moment. Seeing Suzanne pestering her like a koala again, Xian Ringsu felt helpless and didn't know where this guy got this habit. Snort. How annoying. Lying on the bed, looking at the moonlight falling through the thin paper window, Xian Ringsu's eyes flashed with a cold murderous intent, and then she quickly calmed down her emotions, as if she was afraid of surprising someone. Suddenly, there was a slight sound of footsteps, and Xian Ringsu frowned immediately. Someone. Xian Ringsu frowned slightly, and her mental power was released instantly. Outside the hospital, I saw two figures walking in quietly. Both of them had their faces covered, and they didn't look like good people. Seeing that they were two ordinary people, Xian Ringsu had a look of contempt on her face, as if she was waiting to watch a sideshow, quietly watching what the two wanted to do. Remember to wear good clothes. At this time, Suzanne closed the quilt and a gentle reminder sounded. Only then did Xian Ringsu realize that Suzanne was pretending to be asleep on purpose. It was really disgusting. Seeing Suzanne let go of her, Xian Ringsu glared at him with dissatisfaction and shame, then straightened her skirt without making any sound. Let's go and see what they want to do. Suzanne took Xian Ringsu's little hand, and her figure flashed directly to the sky outside the hut. Under their feet was a ring like flying soul guide stepping on them, making no sound, so that Suzanne and the two did not fall down. Below, two figures had arrived outside the house, and suddenly one of them took out a short pipe from his arms just like the scenes in movies and TV series. Bamboo poles are filled with powdered white smoke and other intoxicating drugs, which can enter the human body through the mouth and nose, and finally achieve the purpose of anesthesia. Wait a minute, don't wake them up. Seeing that his companion was so anxious, the leading man immediately detained him. The companion had no choice but to hold back his restless thoughts. When he thought of the piles of gold coins, he swallowed subconsciously, his eyes flashing with greed and passion. It's him. Hearing the man's voice, Suzanne and Xian Ringsu looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh, obviously knowing the identity of the person coming. After a while, after testing that there was no movement in the house, the two finally walked into the house with confidence. Come on, catch the thief. Suddenly, the whole room was illuminated, and a voice full of joking and ridicule rang out. Let's go. Their pupils shrank suddenly, their faces were full of panic, and they rushed out of the house without caring about anything else. Suddenly, the two of them stopped the car suddenly, raised their heads stiffly, and looked at the two figures floating in the air with fear. You two, since you are here, why not sit here and leave in a hurry? Suzanne smiled harmlessly. Escape. Separately. Swallowing subconsciously, the man's eyes flashed. He gritted his teeth and let out a loud shout and wanted to run away, as did his companions. Unfortunately, there is only one fate waiting for them. Following Suzanne's shocking roar, every household in Holy Soul Village was awakened. Rural people are not rich to begin with and can barely make ends meet. If they are stolen by thieves again, they will not be able to survive. Therefore, the words thief, food and money have greater energy than any other words here. In the blink of an eye, a large group of people ran out carrying hoes and other farm tools and then rushed here. What's going on? What happened? The old village chief Jack also rushed over in a hurry, and with anger, fear, and anxiety, he pushed the crowd away. Village chief, you came just in time. These two people sneaked into my yard in the middle of the night and wanted to do something evil, Suzanne said bluntly. Kinlaozen, Margauzi. Looking at the two unconscious people on the ground, old Jack also shrank his pupils. When he noticed the black cloth around their necks and the knife on the ground, his face turned red with anger. These two fools actually dare to do such a thing. He is so smart, but he still doesn't understand. It must be Suzanne's generosity. The two of them were interested in making money, so they couldn't resist the temptation of money and came here at night. How hateful. After all, their Holy Soul Village was also a village of Soul Saint. The folk customs were simple and everyone was kind. What the hell? These two guys are really embarrassing to the village. I usually do nothing, but now I dare to break into my house and steal things. Fortunately, there is nothing valuable in my house, otherwise I would have suffered a lot. Suffering? I think the suffering is minor. I didn't see that they all had knives in their hands. Hiss. Don't be scary, I'm very timid. Our village cannot tolerate such people, otherwise who would have a peaceful life? These two people are smearing our village. Hearing the comments from the people around him, the village chief's expression worsened, and he already knew what to do. Village chief, I'll leave them to you. It's up to you to see how the people in your village deal with them. After waving to the village chief, Suzanne led Xian Ringsu into the house without interfering with the matter. Village chief. As soon as Suzanne left, everyone looked at old Jack longingly. Lock them both up first and hand them over to the patrolling military master the day after tomorrow. The crutch hammered. Old Jack's face turned red with anger, and he said angrily, good. What happened at night was just a small episode, and there would be people like this in every village. Suzanne could understand, and didn't take it to heart. He believed that old Jack would handle it well. In the morning, the sky was just getting brighter, and Suzanne had already climbed out of bed, preparing breakfast this morning. Simple fruits, paired with some gruel, and of course noodles. These things are common in villages, but the taste depends on the level of the producer. The old village chief Jack got up very early, as if even the elderly woke up early, and came to Suzanne with two young men, still carrying things in his hands. My lord, please don't take what happened last night to heart. This is a little bit of the village's feelings. Please accept it. Old Jack's eyes were a little dark, as if he didn't sleep well last night. He apologized and asked someone to put the things down. It's not anything expensive, just some vegetables, fruits, and eggs, which is what it means. I just accepted the stuff, but I still have to pay the money. It was just right for Xian Ringsu to taste the crab. Suzanne did not refuse, but still took out a few gold coins from his pocket. Seeing Suzanne take out the gold coin, old Jack quickly waved his hand and refused to accept it, no matter how much Suzanne tried to persuade him. Seeing this, Suzanne had no choice but to give up and planned to give it to the village when he left. After all, he was taking away the only blacksmith in the village. The next chapter, the Battle of Haoshan Douluo. The excitement will continue soon. Chapter 138. The name of Haoshan, the beginning of its fall. At noon, seeing Suzanne busy in the kitchen for a long time without coming out, Xian Ringsu couldn't help but run over. Xian Ringsu was stunned when she saw the neatly arranged dishes on the side, including 10 plates, including a lot of fish and meat. Why are you making it so rich? We too can't eat so much. Although she usually can't control her mouth and is greedy, she is not a waste of food. Those dishes are for you. I will take these dishes to him. Without Looking back, Suzanne pointed to the 4 bowls of crab dishes beside him with a somewhat dignified tone. Have you decided today, Xian? Rinxu looked stunned, pursed her lips, and for some reason felt a little shrinking in her heart. Yes. Suzanne paused slightly and nodded seriously, confident. With a timid face, Xian Rinxu was holding onto her sleeves. Her expression was nervous and apprehensive, and her voice was slightly trembling. Although she knew that Suzanne was very powerful, and had even heard he brag that he was stronger than her grandfather Xian Douluo, Xian Rinxu still couldn't help but worry in her heart. Don't worry, nothing will happen. You can eat first. Suzanne waved his hand nonchalantly. Although Tang Heo was indeed powerful, he couldn't even beat extreme Douluo Xian Douluo, let alone him. If it really doesn't work, then don't blame yourself and blow him up yourself. As soon as he finished speaking, a weak body suddenly came up and pressed on Suzanne's back, and there were also an extra set of hands on the waist. With a sudden excitement in her heart, Suzanne almost dropped the spatula in her hand and quickly put the last dish on the plate. Ah, you so worried? I'm very strong. Feeling Xian Rinxu's dependence and worry on her, Suzanne's heavy face suddenly showed a sweet smile. After wiping the smell of oil smoke from her body, Suzanne turned around with a smile on her face. Aha! Before Suzanne could react, in an instant, a charming face came up to her, with rosy lips that were rosy and crystal clear. Xian's pupils shrank suddenly, and she hugged Xian Rinxu subconsciously, feeling the refreshing smell. He crab god takes a trip and this book reaches 99. I went on the road contentedly. No, I should be contented to send others off. Nonsense. What are you talking about in crow language? At noon, taking the food box with her, Suzanne arrived at Tang Heo's house. The sound of hammering could be heard inside, and it seemed that Tang Heo had not left. Senior, I'm here. Suzanne shouted into the room. As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of hammering suddenly stopped, and then a cute little boy walked out of the wooden house. Although the boy is less than 3 years old, his face has a maturity and stability that does not belong to this age group. Wearing a pair of coarse cloth clothes, he looked clean and tidy, and he didn't feel like he was swaying when he walked. Tang-san. Suzanne's eyes also shrank, and then she waved to him. Come here, brother, I brought something for you. Hearing this, Tang-san's eyes flickered, and he said for a moment, but he still walked over. Tang Hilu, see if you can teach me how to chew it. Suzanne took out a candied horse and teased. Looking at the candied horse on a stick, Tang-san's face clearly flashed with confusion, and then he was relieved, thinking that there must be candied horse on a stick in this world. Hold it yourself. Suzanne waved it. Tang-san hesitated for a moment, but still took it. At this time, Tang Heo walked out, still looking sleepy, as if he would never wake up, trying his best to anesthetize himself. I saw that he was still holding a hammer and kitchen knife in his hand. The hammer is only the size of an ordinary hammer, but it is very delicate, and even the patterns on it are not missing. As for the kitchen knife, well, it has no pattern at all. It looks like it was just polished. Those who didn't know it thought Tang Heo was perfunctory. However, Suzanne has his own knowledge about kitchen knives. What kind of kitchen knife is easy to use? He can tell clearly at a glance. This is definitely an excellent kitchen knife. Things are already packed. Tang Heo looked at the food box and then threw the kitchen knife and hammer over, looking cold and carefree. Fortunately, Suzanne caught them. The weight is pretty good. Waving the kitchen knife slightly, Suzanne showed a satisfied smile. As his strength improved, ordinary kitchen knives seemed too light and did not have that kind of feel. I made a few dishes. Let's try them together. Seeing that Tang Heo was conscientious and did not show off his face to Li Ke, Suzanne put away the things and took out the food in the food box. In an instant, a tangy fragrance filled the air. Not only Tang-san, but also the Iron Man. Tang Heo also subconsciously moved his nose. This time, Tang Heo did not refuse. Looking at Tang-san's greedy expression, he sat down boldly. This is Xian Daosita's fine wine. I brought some out, but today you can only drink alone. I'm not good at drinking. With a slight smile, Suzanne then took out a jar of fine wine from the storage ring and threw it over as well. Aha! Without any sound, the wine had fallen into Tang Heo's hands. His smooth control and precise strength made Suzanne's eyes light up. Seeing Suzanne bring out the wine, Tang San frowned obviously, but seeing that Suzanne and Tang Heo knew each other, he didn't bother him in any way. Point bang. After opening the seal and smelling the familiar mellow aroma, Tang Heo's eyes flashed with memories, and then he drank heavily. It seemed that this was the only way to feel satisfied. After a while, if you don't know how to drink, you are not a man. Ha ha ha. Tang Heo put down the wine jar with a clang. His bold voice suddenly rang out, and then he burst into laughter. Suddenly, the laughter stopped, and Tang Heo looked at Tang San blankly. The corner of his mouth seemed to be smiling and crying, and his eyes were full of bitterness, helplessness, and sorrow. But a man who drinks every day must not be a good man. After taking another sip of wine, Tang Heo's tone was equally domineering and decisive, making people dare not refuse. But this time, it seems that there are endless memories weighing heavily on my heart like a boulder, and I can't move them away. 10 years ago, he liked to drink, and Tang Heo's name was known to everyone in the Soul Master world. He stopped drinking 5 years ago because some people didn't like the smell of alcohol on him. 2 years ago, when Yi Ren was away, he picked up the wine again and drank the word Haotia's wine, anesthetizing this scarred heart. Senior, your knowledge is unique. I would like to offer you a glass of tea instead of wine. Not paying attention to Tang Heo's casual remarks, Suzanne smiled lightly and raised his glass. Snort. Tang Heo snorted coldly, ignored it, and drank the wine by himself. Seeing this, Suzanne shook his head helplessly and started eating on his own, ignoring the drunkard. For this last meal, he didn't care about a dead man. Chapter 139 The Battle with Tang Heo. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 tastes of food, it was time to get down to business. I have heard for a long time that Senior is very powerful. I wonder if I can compete with Junior? Suzanne asked in a solemn voice, without even the slightest smile on his face, which looked a bit scary. You, a soul sect, also want to fight me? Tang Heo was slightly stunned, put down his chopsticks and wine jar, and asked in surprise. He could tell at a glance that Suzanne's cultivation level was just that of the soul sect. With such cultivation level, he could beat him to death without even using soul power. Suzanne nodded and narrowed his eyes. A cold light and murderous intent burst out from Suzanne's body in an instant. This battle is not only about superiority and inferiority, but also about life and death. As soon as the sound fell, the whole place suddenly became dead silent. It was like a cold wind passing by, freezing time and space. Tang San's eyes widened, and he looked at Suzanne with fear. Tang Heo's movements were also slightly stagnant, and he was extremely shocked. Not only to differentiate between superior and inferior, but also to determine life and death. The corners of his mouth raised slightly, not knowing whether he was mocking or feeling sad. Tang Heo asked numbly, "So, you came here to kill me this time, not to ask me to come out?" "Yeah." Suzanne nodded intently. "Why?" 2 short words burst out from Tang Heo's mouth, and a cold and domineering aura suddenly burst out from Tang Heo's body. It was like a giant dragon roaring, rolling like thunder, and the overwhelming sense of power was oppressive. Suzanne even felt that his breathing was about to stop. White light flashed. He had already put on the mecha, and the silver light formed an airtight shield, shrouding Suzanne in the center. Seeing that Suzanne actually blocked it, Tang Heo was slightly stunned. His eyes focused on the mecha on Suzanne's body, and his expression suddenly became solemn. The intuition of the master craftsman told him that this set of mecha was not simple, and it was definitely not something they could build. "We are enemies. I'm just here to take revenge." Thinking about it this way, Senior may be more accepting of it. Suzanne spoke slowly, his tone neither salty nor cold, but it revealed a murderous intent. "Enemy?" Tang Heo's face became even more confused. Seeing that Suzanne had no intention of taking action immediately, he also dispersed the soul power around him and stared at him with cold eyes. "Senior killed my father-in-law, and my father-in-law killed Senior's wife." Thinking about it this way, Senior should understand. With that said, Suzanne stood up slowly and looked at Tang Heo's horrified and angry look, like a giant dragon about to go crazy. Breathing heavily, Ha ha ha. If that's the case, there's no need to say more. Tang Heo sneered and slapped his right arm suddenly. The stone table suddenly turned into powder, and the bowls and chopsticks fell down with a crisp clang sound. I saw that Tang Heo's eyes were already blood red, and his whole body was exuding unspeakable murderous intent. It was so gloomy and piercing that he shuddered. If it weren't for the protection of the mecha, I'm afraid even a Contra wouldn't be able to withstand this killing intent, and would simply collapse to the ground. You should take a nap first. With a click of a finger, a ray of silver light poured into Tang San's body, and the latter instantly went limp. This is not a suitable place for fighting. Let's go outside. After looking around, Suzanne's figure suddenly took off, heading towards an uninhabited direction. He waved his hand and sent Tang San back to the house, and Tang Heo immediately followed. Southeast of Fasno province, Nanai Swamp. Moistened by the Yishu River, there are swamps covering a radius of more than 30 miles. At a glance, there is no trace of a person. Maybe in the future, this place will become very lively. After all, two top figures have fought here. Above the sky, two figures stood tall and straight. Suzanne looked at Tang Heo, and Tang Heo also looked at Suzanne. Senior, do you still remember the clear sky hammer I asked you to build? With a smile on her lips, Suzanne looked at Tang Heo's slightly stunned look, and then said, if Senior loses, I will engrave Senior's title on the clear sky hammer and place it in front of the mausoleum as a memorial. I didn't expect Suzanne to build the clear sky hammer like this. Is he building a tombstone for himself? Ridiculous. How ridiculous. Tang Heo's face hardened and he roared, do you really think you can kill me? Boom. The 9 soul rings on the soles of his feet were released instantly. 1 yellow, 2 purple, 5 black and 1 red. The gorgeous colors make him look extremely tall, as if a god has descended. His whole body exuded an indescribable domineering spirit, an invincible spirit, as if he, Tang Heo, had never lost to anyone. Even though he was the strongest Kandao Liu, Tang Heo didn't have the slightest fear. He held his palm slightly, and a huge black hammer appeared in his hand. There is lightning all over the body, and a special light shines on the pure black surface, and there is a faint pattern lingering on the cylindrical hammerhead. Extremely domineering. Suzanne's pupils also shrank, and a silver sword appeared in his hand, his eyes filled with fighting intent. Roar. With a roar, Tang Heo flew towards Suzanne like a whirlwind with the clear sky hammer flying. Good guy, you're not welcome at all. Seeing Tang Heo not holding back at all, and directly using the random cloak hammer technique, half of the silver crystals on Suzanne's body lit up in an instant. Without flinching at all, Suzanne rushed forward. This time he did not use a long sword, but simply relied on his fists to fight hard. Boom. The fist and the clear sky hammer collided together. The air seemed to be compressed, and the space became distorted. Then, a devastating impact wave centered on the collision, in the shape of a ring, swept away in all directions. Wherever it passed, earth and rocks splashed, grass and trees were broken, and a deep mark about several hundred meters long swept and extended in the swamp. There was a loud bang, and Tang Heo felt his arms go numb. A huge force hit him, and he was pushed back. Boom. With his back foot firmly planted on the ground, Tang Heo punched the ground with the clear sky hammer in his hand. He didn't stop until he had slid dozens of meters. Tang Heo shook his numb arm tightly, feeling horrified. He was actually repelled. Fighting you in the sky will be detrimental to you. A long sigh of relief sounded, and Suzanne slowly fell from the sky, with a face full of confidence and arrogance under the mask. A look of shame and anger flashed across his face. Tang Heo's eyes turned red, his black soul ring shone, and the clear sky hammer in his hand suddenly surged. The clear sky hammer, which was originally only over 2 meters long, suddenly grew to over 20 meters long. The handle of the hammer was thicker than a large bucket, and the diameter of the hammerhead exceeded 4 meters. The toes of his left leg stepped on the ground, slightly bent, and Tang Heo suddenly jumped up. All the power in his body burst out from his calves, passed from his waist to his arms, and finally concentrated on the clear sky hammer. With his waist like a longbow, Tang Heo raised the huge clear sky hammer and smashed it straight towards Suzanne. Boom. There was no sound of air friction, and the extreme impact of power made people shudder, as if the sky was changed by it. Chapter 140 Haoshan falls and returns to Xian. Is the martial soul's true form? It's indeed strong enough. Seeing the hammer flashing with thunder and its overwhelming momentum, Suzanne also cast a sideways glance and suppressed the smile on his face. Suddenly, the two source crystals on the silver the sword lit up, and the sword instantly shone with dazzling brilliance. White energy coiled around the sword body, making the sword larger in size. Feeling the terrifying energy emanating from the long sword, Tang Heo was also shocked. This powerful power made him feel like he was facing Kandao Liu. Without the slightest hesitation, Tang Heo's soul power suddenly poured into the clear sky hammer. The clear sky hammer that condensed soul power and spiritual consciousness looked even more indestructible and majestic. Pure power, pure dominance. Let's see if you can take this sword. Seeing blood spilling from the corner of Tang Heo's mouth, Suzanne showed no mercy and suddenly swung out the sword point. Boom. In an instant, a 50-meter long sword light burst out from the sword body, and in the blink of an eye, it had expanded to 100 meters at this time. The clear sky hammer's attack also arrived as promised. Point. Boom. Black light also suddenly emanated from the clear sky hammer, and the dull pressure of power made people pale in horror, as if the sky was about to collapse. The shocking black and white energy broke through the sky and spread directly in all directions, stretching for 10 miles. Only black and white remain in the sky and earth, as if the two poles of yin and yang are colliding, and the surrounding time and space have become dull. Boom. Feeling the huge pressure from his arm, Tang Heo turned pale, coughed up blood, gritted his teeth, and did not flinch. However, this weak and stubborn resistance only lasted for 8 seconds before it was completely extinguished. Tang Heo was directly blown away, and the clear sky hammer in his hand was blown away in the shocking explosion. Boom. The shocking energy finally lost its balance and suddenly exploded in the middle of the swamp. A huge mushroom cloud rose into the sky. The terrifying energy wave swept away in all directions, and the world-destroying destruction was like a nuclear bomb explosion. So terrifying that it made people's hands and feet cold. The bursting flames filled the air and raged in the swamp, engulfing not only Suzanne, but also Tang Heo completely. Fortunately, a silver shield wrapped around Suzanne, protecting him from harm. I don't know how long it took, but the fire and smoke finally dissipated, and the tiny particles still floating in the air seemed to have experienced a war. The scene on the ground was even more horrifying. The originally pitted swamps had all turned into scorched earth, with no grass growing on it, and earth-black air currents were still steaming from the ground. Bang! A heavy voice sounded, and Suzanne turned around to look, only to see the huge clear sky hammer falling to the ground, turning into starlight and dissipating, revealing Tang Heo's charred and embarrassed appearance behind him. Boom. Standing up with trembling legs, Tang Heo seemed to have exhausted all his strength and took 2 swaying steps forward. His pupils were sluggish, and his mountain-like body finally fell down. Suzanne came down and checked Tang Heo's condition. He was still alive, but he was still dying and could not live much longer. Suzanne hesitated for a while, then sighed and picked up the long sword and drew it across. A token then fell into Suzanne's hand. He put the token away and looked at Tang Heo's body. Suzanne did not destroy the body and remove the bones. The strong have their own way of dying, especially for talented people like Tang Heo. It is the last bit of respect to die with dignity. All 6 soul bones were left in his body. Even Yin's 100,000-year-old soul bone was left untouched by Suzanne, letting it sleep together. Alas, it's a pity that we are hostile. Otherwise, after digging a pit for Tang Heo and using fragrant wood as a coffin, Suzanne took out the clear sky hammer and carved a tombstone for him. Is he really dead? Looking at the dirt bag in front of her, Qian Mingsu sighed and asked. She felt that she should be happy, but she couldn't laugh. A genius as strong as Tang Heo eventually turned into a pile of Lois. Her revenge for killing her father was indeed avenged, but nothing could go back. Even if she went back, what would happen? Perhaps, in his eyes, he has never had a daughter like himself. Suzanne didn't answer and carved the words carefully. Although his knife skills were good, his carving skills were not so good. I only practiced for an hour. Boom. There was lightning and thunder in the sky, and heavy rain suddenly fell, washing away the dust on the earth. Between heaven and earth, it seems that only this tomb and the hammer are left, and the lonely and sad sound of rain He took Kan Rinxu back to Holy Soul Village and looked at Tang San, who was unconscious in the room. Suzanne thought for a while and finally put him into the seal box, then placed it in the system space and sealed him forever. As a time traveler, who knows whether the world has been opened for him or not? The cheating thing is still left to the cheater himself to solve, and he will not interfere with this matter. Instead of returning to Xian City immediately, Suzanne and Kan Rinxu stayed in Holy Soul Village for 2 days. Old Jack also came to ask where Tang Heo had gone. Suzanne made up a lie. He said that he liked what he built very much, so he gave him 50 gold coins. He might have left the village and lived in the city point. Although he was a little suspicious of Tang Heo's lazy drunkard, old Jack didn't think much about it. He only lamented that there was a blacksmith missing in the village, and it would be inconvenient to make blacksmiths in the future, and then left. 2 days later, Suzanne and Kan Rinxu left Holy Soul Village in a carriage. This once glorious village had lost a few outsiders, and had not changed at all. Point in the carriage, Suzanne seemed to have something wrong in his mind these past 2 days. Kan Rinxu leaned over, hugged Suzanne with her soft and boneless arms, and gently leaned her head against his side. It seemed that only in this way did she feel at ease, waiting for the Soul Master competition. Come with me back to the Spirit Hall, Kan Rinxu said hesitantly. Suzanne was stunned and suddenly woke up. His eyes became much clearer. You're planning to show off your cards to your family so soon? Aren't you afraid that your mother-in-law will chop me up with a knife? After pinching her little nose, Suzanne's face became a little more happy, and she pretended to be angry. I hope you teach her a lesson for me. With a cunning look in her eyes, Kan Rinxu stuck out her tongue again after speaking, quickly turned the page, and pushed Suzanne's arm coquettishly. Okay, I'm going to go there in the future anyway, and you don't want Wuhan Palace to always make trouble secretly. Seeing Kan Rinxu pouting her little mouth, her big watery eyes staring at him expectantly, and blinking her eyelashes in a cute manner, Suzanne's heart suddenly melted. Are you turning your elbows outward so soon? Suzanne smiled sweetly. Then are you going or not? Kan Rinxu suddenly became anxious. I'm going, with a long nasal sound. Suzanne then tilted his body and fell down, lying in Kan Rinxu's arms. With a wicked smile in his eyes, he said, you make me feel comfortable, and I will go. What do you think? Bah. Do you want to go or not? Sorry. To Kill Tang Heo Chapter 141 The Three Beauties of Wuhan Palace. As the father of the Douluo hero, Tang Heo is definitely the kind of person who is extremely powerful. Looking at Tang Heo, it is absolutely unprecedented for him to achieve the title of Douluo in his 40s. He had just broken through to the title Douluo, and even though he was seriously injured, he was still able to blast the Super Douluo Kan Zhengji, kill a title Douluo, and seriously injure a title Douluo. Seriously injured, 1 versus 3, enough to be called a legend for a while. Unfortunately, he fell to Suzanne's sword in the end. The old wounds were not healed, and his meridians were disordered. Tang Heo was unable to withstand the bombardment of the 3 sources. 1 source can already kill a Super Douluo. Tang Heo can survive 3 sources, which is beyond Suzanne's expectation and is reasonable. It's a pity that I didn't see the magical ring exploding skill. Lying on Kan Rinxu's lap, letting her hold him while squeezing her shoulders, Suzanne couldn't help but feel a little regretful. If Tang Heo used the ring exploding magical skill, he would definitely be able to carry through the 3 sources. I don't know why he didn't use it. As it is current state that prevents him from performing it. Suzanne didn't know. If he wanted to know, he would probably have to ask Tang Heo himself. Seeing what Suzanne was thinking about, Kan Rinxu pouted her lips, feeling a little dissatisfied. Before, this guy was so obedient, holding it in his mouth, that his fear melted away, but now he knew how to bully her, and even asked her to hit her back and pinch her shoulders. Men really don't have any good things. What's wrong? I seem to see someone a little unhappy. Seeing Kan Rinxu's sulky look, Suzanne became more playful and reached out to pinch her mouth with a smile. You knew how to bully me. Kan Rinxu turned her head to avoid it, her dimples bulging like a frog, and she said in a bad mood, then, let me give you a massage to make you feel better. After Grabbing Xian Ringsu's little hand, Suzanne couldn't help laughing and discussed with a smile. Hearing this, Xian Ringsu nodding excitedly, a childlike innocent smile bloomed on her face. Her smile was like a flower, and then she lay down directly, revealing the elegant curve of her back. "You're so rude." Seeing Xian Ringsu being so cute, Suzanne was stunned and a little speechless. He was just joking. His massage time hadn't even come yet, so why did he take over? Who told you to speak for yourself? A man keeps his word. Come on. Lying down comfortably on the blanket, Xian Ringsu patted her back and imitated Suzanne in playing rogue. Suzanne, I'm still young, why don't you drive like this? Just when Suzanne was about to get up, the carriage suddenly shook and finally stopped. Both Suzanne and Suzanne were stunned. Did something happen outside? Suzanne couldn't help but ask. Sir, there are two children lying in the middle of the road. A weak female voice sounded, seemingly with a hint of fear. The woman's name is Juna, and she is a driving girl that Suzanne bought from Notting City. The so-called buying means that she and the car belong to him at the moment. This is also a type of slave trade. Having skills and traveling long distances. Ahem. As a man, there are always times when you feel empty and lonely. If you feel bored while traveling, you still have something to do. Well, you know the specifics. Although the woman is a virgin, Suzanne is not interested in her body. He just sees her as beautiful and thinks that she is pleasing to the eye. That's all. Child. Hearing this, Suzanne and Xian Ringsu were also stunned and then came out of the carriage. I saw two figures lying on the roadside. They looked to be only about 10 years old. However, their condition seemed to be a little bad, and they were both covered in blood. Suzanne got off the carriage and walked over directly, while Xian Ringsu followed beside him. Are you still alive? Suzanne pushed the boy among them, and when he saw no response, he immediately turned him over. She's still breathing. It looks like she just fainted. After checking the condition of some boys, Suzanne breathed a sigh of relief and said involuntarily, she is also alive. Xian Ringsu also said. Suzanne nodded, then wrapped it with soul power, and the two of them took it to the creek next to it. After using water to wash away the blood on their faces, Suzanne could see their appearance clearly. The boy was very handsome, with silver grey hair with a touch of bright red. As for the girls, Suzanne didn't know whether to say that he was cheating or that he was just lucky. All of a sudden, he met the three beauties of Wuhan Palace. I saw a girl with long black hair, a childlike appearance with a touch of baby fat. She was less than 10 years old, and her body had already developed into a slim and tall figure. The long eyelashes trembled slightly, and the woman exuded an air of charm. Even though her eyes were closed, she could not hide her sexy charm. She's pretty, too. Xian Ringsu couldn't help but nodded, with a complacent look on her face, as if she was reminding someone that she was more beautiful. Of course you are the most beautiful, but can you save people first? Suzanne rolled his eyes and reminded. Sticking out her tongue at Suzanne playfully, Xian Ringsu immediately took out a bottle from her arms and dropped a drop of green liquid into the girl's mouth. This is a healing liquid specially provided by the royal family, which is very beneficial for restoring physical strength and injuries. Seeing the girl's throat moving and swallowing the liquid, Suzanne then took it and dropped a drop into the boy's mouth. Wait. Here, it's noon now, let's take a rest. Seeing that the girl and boy might not wake up for a while, Suzanne moved the two of them to the shade of a tree and then lit a fire beside them. With a clear understanding of the situation, Xian Ringsu was not idle and caught a few fish from the stream. Seeing Xian Ringsu staring at her pitifully, Suzanne shook her head helplessly and had to start preparing the grilled fish. I don't know if the rising fireworks attracted too much attention. After a while, a pair of people rushed over and surrounded Suzanne. The leader was a big man, powerful, holding a blood-stained sword in his hand, and his body was filled with blood and murderous intent. Master, look. Suddenly, a figure dressed as a butler pointed at Ziyu and the other two, looking a little excited. Kill them all, root them out. A blood-red color flashed in his eyes. The big man looked at Suzanne and the two, and a cold voice suddenly sounded. Then there's nothing more to say. Suzanne shrugged at Xian Ringsu, who immediately understood his intention, and took out a golden long sword from the storage ring. Seeing everyone rushing towards him, Suzanne quickly took out a flash bomb and threw it out, then bent down to protect Xian Ringsu. In an instant, a dazzling white light exploded, and everyone's eyes were filled with white, and they felt their brains were shaking and dizzy. No need to hold back, just for words sounded, and Suzanne and the two turned into a ball of light. They only heard the sound of falling to the ground, but there was no scream at all. Chapter 142. The deep love between brother and sister. Less than a few seconds later, only the big man was left standing. I saw brown hair growing on his burly body, and his body became thicker and stronger, with the shadow of a native bear looming. You, a soul king, actually hunted down two of them. Seeing the 5 soul rings on the soles of the big man's feet, Suzanne's face was full of shock, and he couldn't help blurting out disdain, full of contempt and disbelief, with the quality and talent of Xiu and Hulina's martial arts. Even if their parents are not contrasts, they are soul saints. Judging from the blood-stained appearance of the two, it was obvious that they had experienced a bloody battle. So, you guys killed their parents? After thinking about it, even Suzanne felt a little weird. With just these few idiots, these two brothers and sisters can brutally torture you even at the age of 20, let alone their parents. Kid, I advise you are not to meddle in other people's business. The Bay family of Contra is not something you can provoke. Looking at the corpse on the ground, the big man couldn't help but feel a little scared. But when he thought of his master, he suddenly became angry and roared in shame. Now that you've said it, go and die. Hearing this, Suzanne seemed to have understood everything. Dark golden light shone in his right hand, and a claw appeared on his hand. Without any unnecessary nonsense, Suzanne's soul power poured into his right claw, and then he tore it out with one claw. Boom. In the sky, a huge dark golden claw whizzed away, and even the air rippled, as if it was about to be cut open by the claw. The giant claw does not seem to have any sense of strength, but its indestructible sharpness makes people feel horrified. It seems that any copper and iron walls in front of it are just paper. Seeing the giant claws attacking, the big man was completely stunned. Just when he was about to use his soul skills to resist, he found that his martial soul was trembling. The pressure from his blood even made him feel like he was about to surrender and kneel down. When he came to his senses, the giant claws were already in front of him. Heart-rending screams rang out, and the big man fell into a pool of blood. Suzanne, depend on. Why don't you resist? Seeing the big man fall down like this, Suzanne felt very disappointed. It's not easy to meet Xian Wuhan, and she's not a cute girl like Lin Zhu. If you resist, then I'll feel the horror of this soul bone before I die. A Pasabi's acting skills, bad review. Big Han ghost, damn it. I really don't want to resist. Look, are you speaking human language? Your soul bone seems to be particularly suppressive to Xian Wuhan. Putting away her sword, Xian Ringsu approached Suzanne with a smile, and her words spoke the truth. It should be the ancestor level of bears. Suzanne nodded. The dark gold terror claw bear is definitely the overlord among bears in the Douluo continent, capable of tearing apart giant dragons with its bare hands. The dark gold terror claw soul bone has been nourished by a 100,000-year-old soul ring, and inspired by the azure bull python and green dragon bloodline. It has now reached the 10,000-year level. Even if his attack was not as powerful as the dark gold terror claw bear, the attack just now was not something that a level 53 soul king, the big man, could resist. At this moment, a heart-touching and charming gasping sound suddenly sounded. Suzanne felt excited and looked over immediately. I saw that Hulina, who was lying on the ground, had woken up and slowly stood up holding her head with a headache. Her steps were a little shaky, as if she would fall down at any time. As if she thought of something, Hulina turned pale and fell to the ground with a crash. Woo. Mother. Father. Woo woo woo. Heart-wrenching sobs rang out, and Hulina clenched her fists and hammered the ground. She looked so miserable that she was in so much pain that I felt pity for her. Shaking her head at Xian Ringsu, Suzanne then gently led her to the side and continued grilling the undercooked fish. After crying and yelling, she realized what she should do most in the future. What she needed at the moment was not comfort, but silence. Of course, that includes delicious food. After a while, Xiu also woke up, and the brother and sister hugged each other and cried. However, as a boy, Xiu was more calm and steady. He just cried for a while and then stopped. He is not heartless, but he is more aware of the situation between the two of them at the moment. There were only two of them left in the family. As the elder brother, he had to endure it, no matter how sad he was. Don't worry, sister, I will definitely repay our family's hatred. Holding Hulina in her arms, a ferocious look flashed across Xiu's face, and her eyes turned blood red. But his face softened immediately, with tears in his eyes, and he stroked Hulina's head to comfort her. After an unknown amount of time, Hulina also stopped crying. Her tearful eyes were broken, and her soft face was stained with tears. Did you save us? Xiu breathed a sigh of relief, and looked at Suzanne, who was eating grilled fish not far away, with gratitude in her eyes. He saw all the corpses on the ground. They were all dead people. Hearing this, Hulina also wiped the tears on her face, and looked at Suzanne and Suzanne. Her tearful eyes were dim and her pale face was heartbroken. She looked so weak and helpless. Now that you've recovered, come over and have something to eat. Suzanne wiped the corners of her mouth, put down the grilled fish, and greeted. Xian Ringsu looked at the fire, and then came to the stream. With a wave of her hand, she grabbed a few more, and brought them up. She didn't know whether she wanted to eat them, or let the two of them eat them. Seeing Suzanne's admission, Xiu helped Hulina over. Thank you for your life-saving grace. My brother and sister have nothing to repay. Supporting Hulina, Xiu bowed deeply, her face filled with grief and gratitude. Suzanne waved his hand, indicating that there was no need to be so polite and just sit down. The two of them were weak, so they were not polite. Eat something first to recover a little. Suzanne took out some pastries from the storage ring and handed them to the two of them. Seeing Suzanne approaching, Hulina shrank suddenly, fear flashed across her face, and she hid behind Xiu in panic. Thank you very much. Patting Hulina on the head to indicate that she was fine, Xiu forced an apologetic smile on her lips, and then took the cake. She stroked Hulina's head, as if she wanted to give her some warmth, but seeing her fearful and pitiful look, Xiu couldn't help but feel a little heartbroken. It's okay, just eat some, Xiu suppressed a warm smile and secretly vowed to avenge this blood feud for her family. Kindness. After hesitating for a while, Hulina finally took the pastry, put it in her mouth, and chewed it twice, then broke the pastry into two halves, and handed half to Xiu. You eat, Xiu shook her head. She originally wanted to refuse, but looking at her firm and stubborn face, she finally took it, and started to wolf it down. They had been running away for a day and a night. They were already tired and hungry, so they didn't care about what they were eating. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 143. A woman's heart is like a needle under the sea. There are two powerful soul master families in Fasno province. One family is the Z family, and the other is the Bei family. Contra is in charge of both families, and the two families have always been incompatible. However, in the former case, the old man of the Z family passed away last month, and it was his uncle, Prince Snowstar, who came to express condolences on behalf of the royal family. Without the intimidation of the old man with the strength of Contra, the Bei family became the king and hegemony in Fasno province and directly began to suppress the Z family. Originally, the Bei family had no intention of destroying the Z family. After all, the Bei family was nothing without Contra. However, with the exposure of martial soul fusion skills and the soul bones left behind by the old man, the Bei family couldn't bear it anymore, and attacked the Z family directly at night. The family tried their best to escort them, and Xiu and the others escaped. They were chased all the way and they escaped all night long. After hearing what happened to the two of them, Suzanne felt very sympathetic and emotional. This world coexists with charm and bloodshed. Without strength, it is nothing. Although I can avenge you, I won't do it. After a slight pause, Suzanne watched the expressions in their eyes dim again, pondered for a moment, and then said, I plan to return to Xiandao City. If you are willing, I can send you to study at the Imperial Academy of the Xiandao Empire. Are you telling the truth? Hearing this, Xiu immediately stood up excitedly, clenching her fists and looking at Suzanne, her murderous eyes full of anticipation. Hulina on the side was also biting her pink lips, her eyes filled with vengeful anger. It's natural, Suzanne nodded. Xiu and Hulina were very talented. Without Tang San, they would probably become the best in the future. Suzanne cannot let his mother-in-law capture such a talented person. Besides, Xian Rongsu is your daughter. Why should you treat outsiders better than your own daughter? The mother-in-law's thoughts must be eliminated, and the unique status of the young daughter-in-law Wu Hundian must be protected. Otherwise the dowry will be gone. Thank you, master. If you don't mind, my brother and sister are willing to follow the master. Taking Hulina with her, Xiu suddenly knelt down, her eyes full of excitement and gratitude. When the two of them fled, they thought about how to take revenge, but unfortunately they never found a waypoint. The Royal Academy of the Xiandao Empire is definitely a top training place. If they can go there to practice, within 30 years, no. As long as the two of them work hard, they will definitely get revenge in less than 20 years. It just so happened that the two of them had nowhere to go. With such an opportunity, Xiu agreed without any hesitation. Seeing this, Suzanne nodded happily and agreed to Xiu's request. He has 2 loyal subordinates with martial soul fusion skills. If he doesn't agree to this, he'll be an idiot. Go. Wash the bloodstains on your body. After looking at the appearance of the two of them, Suzanne shook his head and pointed to the stream beside him, and then took out a set of clothes that he had never worn and gave them to Xiu. Seeing Suzanne looking at her, Xian Rongsu also took out a dress. Suzanne bought a bunch of clothes for her, saying that she would wear them every day and throw them away if she didn't like them. Now she can't wear them anymore. The two nodded and immediately went to wash themselves in the creek. Xiu and Hulina put on new clothes. One was handsome and the other was charming. They were handsome men and beautiful women, which made people's eyes light up. The fire grew stronger and stronger, and the fish became less and less. This fish, was it really you who grilled it, master? While eating grilled fish, Hulina's eyes narrowed. She covered her mouth and asked in disbelief. Hearing this, Suzanne was speechless. You just watched me bake it. Didn't you have any idea? PFFT. Xian Rongsu couldn't help but laugh. Who would have thought that the largest nobleman in Xiandao City could actually grill fish and cook it? If this spreads out, it will be considered a great legend in Xiandao City. Xiu and Hulina rested for a while, and after recovering some of their physical strength, Suzanne and Xian Rongsu set out on their way back to Xiandao City again. On the carriage, looking at Xiu sitting next to her, Juna smiled awkwardly and said hello. Seeing this, Xiu raised her eyebrows and remained silent. She looked at the car from the corner of her eyes, her face full of resentment. MMP. Why can't I get into the carriage? He was originally full of gratitude, but now he felt like he had been abandoned. The two brothers and sisters, one inside and one outside, are so valuing girls over boys. Will they be able to play well in the future? Why? Seeing Suzanne driving his brother out directly, Hulina looked a little strange and couldn't help but ask. Hearing this, Xian Rongsu's face suddenly turned rosy. She hesitated to speak and finally chose to remain silent. Immediately, Hulina set her sights on Suzanne. You'll know later. Suzanne waved his hand. The reason was a bit inappropriate for children, and it was really difficult to explain. Hulina? An hour later, Hulina finally couldn't stand it anymore, so she walked out of the carriage on her own initiative and sat in a row with Xiu. What's wrong? Seeing Hulina's dimples burning red, Xiu was stunned and asked hesitantly. Nothing. Lowering her head, Hulina shook her head without explaining anything, and the blush on her face showed no sign of fading away. Thinking of the scene where Suzanne and I were making love to each other in the carriage, not caring that she was beside them, Hulina felt angry and ashamed. No wonder I said I would find out later, but I didn't expect it to be like this. Yeah, I wish I never knew. Snort. Show affection and die quickly. Seeing Hulina's shy and angry look, Xiu shook her head curiously, but gave up asking. Inside the carriage. Xian Rongsu wiped the corners of her mouth. Her face was as red as a red cloud, and she said angrily, others have seen it. How can I go out to meet people in the future? They are all girls. There is nothing to worry about. Holding Xian Rinxu's waist, she leaned against him face to face. Feeling the beauty's accelerated heartbeat, Suzanne raised the corners of her mouth slightly, and her eyes were filled with tenderness and sweetness. No. Seeing that Suzanne was trying to do something bad again, Xian Rinxu was startled. Her face flushed, and she hurriedly avoided it. Suzanne, weren't you very cooperative and proactive just now? Why are you so shy now? Alas, a woman's heart is like a needle under the sea. Xiandao City is located in the hinterland of the Xiandao Empire, and within the Xiandao province, and is surrounded by 4 provinces. After a week of traveling with stops and starts along the way, Suzanne and Xian Rinxu finally rushed back to Xiandao City Point. As soon as Suzanne returned to the house, before he could sit down, he was blocked by a group of people. The murderous and cold Nangang Qiu, Nangang Ling, who has a soft face and looks harmless, Zuke, who is worried and has a bulging face, and concubine Yang. Well, all of them are women. At this moment, Suzanne finally knew how lucky he was as a woman. His mother is in pain. Please let go. Your ears are about to break. Soon, the cry for mercy started. Chapter 144. It's so hard for me to be an actor. You still know how to come back? Do you know how worried we are about you? Seeing Suzanne's perverse look begging for mercy, Nangang Ling let go of her arms, with a sullen and angry look on her face, looking at Suzanne with worried and angry eyes. When she received the news from Nangang Qiu that Suzanne had left the army privately, she almost fainted with fright. She was worried every day. My sister Nangang Ling stubbornly searched around for several days, but finally couldn't find it, so she came back with the army. Just because of this bastard, Xiandao City is in a state of unrest. It's really lawless. I'm back now. Queen Mother, please don't be angry. It's not worth getting so angry. With an apologetic smile on her face, Suzanne helped Nangang Ling to her seat and sat down. Mother, I wanted to go out for a walk, so don't blame your husband. Xian Rinxu also came over, her little face pitiful and full of apology, and she begged for mercy. I still don't know what this bastard means, but you are the only one who is still protecting him. Nangang Ling glared at Suzanne angrily, then pulled Xian Rinxu to sit down. The sullen anger turned into a warm and gentle smile at a speed visible to the naked eye, and she patted Xian Rinxu's little hand with satisfaction and relief. Tell your mother, where have you been? Suzanne, the eyes confirmed that I'm definitely your biological child. Your eyes are not working properly. Do you need your mother to bring a doctor to you? Seeing Suzanne winking at the side, Nangang Ling smiled and said thoughtfully, "Hiss, there is a knife hidden in the smile!" Exclamation mark. Suzanne quickly waved his hand and came to concubine Yang and sat down honestly. "Kenna, have you missed your elder brother?" Seeing the angry look on Zuke's little face, Suzanne pinched her nose, picked her up reluctantly, and teased with a smile, "Brothers? Words don't count. I don't want to." Zuke pouted, with a slight emotion clearly on her childish face. "This girl has to cry and clamor to leave the palace every day to see if you are back. I can't stop her." Concubine Yang smiled and exposed it. Zuke glared at concubine Yang angrily, then hugged Suzanne's chest and began to cry and sob. "Smelly brother, bad brother, you lied to me when you said you would be back in a few days." Woo woo woo. Seeing Zuke like this, Suzanne was even more moved. She was indeed her most beloved sister, but as he listened, Suzanne's face suddenly darkened. "Kidda looks forward to your coming back every day. I don't even think about food and tea. Kenna misses you so much. You. I finished the candied horse you gave me a long time ago, and Rangrang still comes to ask me for it. It's so difficult for me. You. Brother, please remember to make more later, and let me save some, okay?" Her eyes were slightly red, and she saw Zuke staring at Suzanne with tears in her eyes, with such an expectant and sincere look, that she wanted to hit someone. When she saw Suzanne point, "Suzanne, depend on. Are you sure you're thinking of me, and not me cooking delicious food?" Ahem. Concubine Yang on the side couldn't help coughing, and rolled her eyes at Zuke, subconsciously point, "This girl, what nonsense are you talking about? But the candied horse on a stick is really delicious, and she likes it too, so she can make more of it." King, what will you gain by experiencing the sufferings of the people? At this moment, Nangang Ling's voice suddenly sounded, and Suzanne understood immediately when Qian Rinxu winked at him. That's right. When I went out this time, I did go to observe the sentiments of the people, not just to have fun. Are you going to test me on politics? Learn about China's 5,000 years of profound culture for yourself. I don't have much experience, but I should think more about the people. As the saying goes, worry about the world's worries first, and rejoice after the world's happiness. The existence of the empire also depends on their loyalty. This loyalty may come from a peace of mind, a gratitude, a morsel of food, a bowl of gruel, or even a beautiful but unfulfilled promise. So, Xian talked eloquently without any pressure at all. He had never traveled through ancient times or read ancient things. Okay, well said. As soon as Suzanne finished speaking, an excited voice suddenly rang out, and then Emperor Zhuyi walked in proudly, followed by 3 little ones. King has indeed gained a lot from this trip. I'm very relieved to have you shouldering the burden of the empire for my father. Looking at Suzanne, Emperor Zhuyi's eyes were shining, excited and satisfied, and he walked lightly with a sense of pride. Worry first when the world is worried, then be happy when the world is happy. Look. How well said. He is worthy of being my son, and worthy of the royal family's upbringing, which is beyond the reach of ordinary people. Suzanne, it's over. I seem to be sending myself to the position of prince. Seeing Zhu Wuji's admiration, Zhu Mingtang shaking his head and lamenting his inferiority, and Zhu Beng's excitement, Suzanne felt a knot in his heart. He seemed to have said the wrong thing. Alas, as expected, excellence radiates from the inside out, and he can't stop it. Grass. I can't damn well place my hidden charm. Father, these remarks were not made by me. They were spoken by an expert. I'm just narrating them on my behalf. Suzanne explained sternly, his face full of guilt, with a hint of guilty conscience. However, Emperor Zhuyi didn't seem to hear it, and laughed and said, Mingtong, when you go back, copy this cautionary saying from King to all the ministers in the court. You should also set up a plaque and hang it in your study, and always think about its profound meaning. The tone paused slightly, Zhu Yi's face became serious, and she said without any doubt, I will tell the world later, that our noble officials in Xiandao should take this as a warning. The herdsmen of Anjing will protect our Xiandao for thousands of years. Yes. Father, I will convey these words of my eldest brother to the ministers of the court, and use this to reflect on myself. Zhu Mingtang spoke sternly, and Zhu Wuji also expressed his stance quickly. In an instant, Suzanne almost spat out a mouthful of blood, and felt as if a flock of crows were flying above her head. Damn it, you are all deaf, and didn't hear what I said. Doesn't this have anything to do with me? Especially you, Zhu Mingtang. Your ears are also blocked by earwax. Why are you making noises? Your Majesty, I have gained a lot from my trip this time. I'm able to have such an amazing emotion. I'm worried about the world's worries first, and then I'm happy after the world's happiness. Alas King, you have really grown up, and my mother is very happy. Nangang Ling sighed happily, looking at Suzanne's eyes shining with satisfaction. That look seemed to say, look, my son. Congratulations to my sister. Concubine Yang also expressed her stance immediately, her face full of blessings. Me. Seeing everyone like this, Suzanne was stunned and opened his mouth, not knowing how to refute and explain. Woohoo, if you play me like this, and arrange me clearly, won't your conscience hurt? Exclamation mark. Chapter 145 Xiandao Empire Royal Academy. It is said that the royal family is the most shameless and the most shameless in the world. Suzanne didn't believe this before. After all, it was very shameful when he did it behind his back. But today, Suzanne finally understood that the royal family was not only rich and wealthy, but also had a thick skin that was so solid. Look. Even though I said it was none of my business, I still want to blame it on me and forcefully put this high hat on the head of the royal family. What else could he do if he was clearly arranged by his family? I have no choice but to accept it reluctantly. It's not that I copied your sentences, Leo Fan. They actually forced me to do so. After spending a meal, Suzanne successfully sent the group of people back to the palace. So in another world, it is very important to know a craft. Back in Xiandao City, Suzanne had a lot to do. However, other things are not urgent for the time being, so I sent Hulina and the two to the Royal Academy, and also went to see the team's situation. Seeing the horrified and stunned expressions of Hulina and others, Suzanne waved his hand. "Let's go, I'll take you to the Royal Academy." Hearing this, Xie led Hulina and followed him quickly. The two of them still looked puzzled, hesitating and opening their mouths but stopped talking. Does it feel incredible that I'm actually the eldest prince of the Xian Empire? Seeing this, Suzanne couldn't help but laugh. Along the way, he and Qian Ringsu saw that the two of them didn't ask, so he didn't bother to show off his cards, so he thought he was just giving them a surprise. Hulina slightly subconsciously. They were escaping in the Fasno province and met the prince of the Xian Empire. How lucky they were, but could it be that this girl's shameless display of affection comes from the royal family? Hulina said that she was really confused about this matter. At first, my brother and sister thought that His Highness was from a noble family in Xiandao City, but they did not expect that His Highness came from the royal family. You looked polite, but her eyes were filled with light, and her inner joy could not be suppressed and showed on her face. With Suzanne's identity, their future will be smoother. Even revenge. Suzanne smiled, and the two of them got into the carriage. This time Ziyu was not kicked out. After entering the Royal Academy, I will not provide you with any help. Even the money needs to be earned by yourself. The edge of a sword comes from sharpening, and the fragrance of plum blossoms comes from the bitter cold. I hope you can understand this truth. Looking at the two people who were full of expectations, Suzanne shook his head and couldn't help but remind him. Personal potential can only explode when squeezed. He does not want Ziyu and Hulina to be arrogant and indulgent, but rather wants them to start from poor and nothing. Only in this way will they cherish what they have and work tirelessly to get what they want. The two of them originally came from the Contra family, and they didn't even lack. But this not lacking will now become their biggest challenge. After hearing Suzanne's words, Hulina and Ziyu's expressions also changed. Looking at each other, the two of them clenched their fists subconsciously, with indestructible self-confidence flashing across their childish faces. Even without any help, they can still stand out from the Royal Academy. Living is still the greatest gift to them, and they don't need to demand anything. Just like the poem I just read, the fragrance of plum blossoms comes after experiencing the bitter cold. Of course, out of personal friendship and sponsorship, I will give you 10 gold coins to help you adapt to Xiandao City first. With that said, Suzanne took out 10 gold coins from his pocket and handed them to Hulina. Seeing that Suzanne was thinking so much about them, Hulina and Ziyu were also very moved, their eyes sparkling, and they secretly vowed to repay him well in the future. Go to the Royal Academy. After saying something to Juna, Suzanne lay down directly, enjoying this corrupt and comfortable life out of boredom. 2 people. Suddenly I felt like something was wrong, but I couldn't put it in words. The Royal Academy is not located in Xiandao City, but is established outside Xiandao City. First, the flashy and noisy city will disturb students' practice. Of the two, the Royal Academy requires various mimetic environments, and its huge area makes it possible for the academy to be excluded from Xiandao City. After a while, Suzanne and the others arrived at the Royal Academy. They saw a tranquil lake and thousands of meters high mountains, and there seemed to be no buildings in sight. This is the area of the Royal Academy, and the Royal Academy is located on the mountainside, surrounded by a mimetic environment suitable for practice, just like a lake suitable for practicing. Suzanne Ahmed didn't have anything to do, and went to take a bath in a hurry. In fact, with his martial arts spirit, he didn't want to play with his little wife. The dean of the Royal Academy is the old man Zuyi, and the vice dean is Zuan. The two of them usually don't pay much attention to the affairs of the academy, so all matters of the academy are the responsibility of the teaching committee. Hulina and Ziyu looked at everything around them with shining eyes, their expressions full of excitement and curiosity, like children going to school for the first time, looking forward to it, but also a little uneasy. The Royal Academy is one of the best academies in the mainland. It has a complete mimetic environment, so that you can have the most suitable training environment. Those who can come here to practice are all nobles of the Xiandao Empire, or people with powerful forces behind them. But if there is a conflict, you don't have to worry about retaliation. Suzanne introduced the two of them. "Ah, you coming to the academy to practice with the team members while walking?" A clear voice suddenly sounded from behind, and Suzanne turned around, subconsciously point you Xianmin. Ahem. "Didn't I tell you, Captain, I'm just a substitute and will come on when it's critical, so you guys usually practice." With a slightly serious face, Suzanne put his hands behind his back and replied with a cold expression. Hearing that Suzanne deliberately emphasized the word captain very hard, Yu Xianmin's face suddenly darkened. Especially when she saw Suzanne's shameless and taken for granted look, she became even more angry. "Now that the captain is here, why don't you give me some honest advice?" Yu Xianmin said coldly, making the sound of grinding his teeth and making Suzanne's skin crawl. What hatred? What hatred? Isn't it because you were not convinced when you lost last time, so I took your position as captain and then robbed you of your finances to reduce your physical burden? Do you hate me so much? Suzanne waved his hand helplessly. "I have something to do when I come to the academy today. I'll just give you some advice. Let's do it another day." With that said, Suzanne winked at Ziyu and the other two, and they immediately followed him honestly. Seeing Suzanne leaving like this, Yu Xianmin gritted his teeth and followed directly, as if he had no intention of letting him go. Chapter 146 Xiandao Empire Royal Academy. In the yard, Meng Shenji was discussing the Soul Master competition with Qinming, looking mysterious. "Old Meng, I'm here to find you." Suddenly a loud laughter rang out, frightening the two of them. "Damn it. This evil star doesn't come to the academy." Meng Shenji was startled and then realized who the person was. While he gritted his teeth with hatred, he started to panic inside. Now, the person he is most afraid of seeing is not the titled Douluo, but the shameless, sinister and shameless him. As the old saying goes, if a person has no shame, he is invincible. Every time you meet him, nothing good will happen. The last time he sent it to his door, he was cheated of 500,000 gold coins. This time he took the initiative to come. Damn it, it's so scary to think about it. Ahem. "Teacher Qin, just say that I went into seclusion to practice. I'll leave first." After coughing twice, Meng Shenji rolled up his sleeves and rushed into his house as fast as lightning. 1 second, 2 seconds. The courtyard suddenly became eerily quiet, and even Qinming couldn't help but shudder. "Isn't it just His Highness? Are you so scared?" Seeing Meng Shenji's frightened look, Qinming's mouth twitched slightly, feeling a little confused. Now that Suzanne is here, he should go out to greet her, but at this time, Suzanne has already come in. "Your Highness came to the academy today, presumably to train with everyone. It just so happens that all the team members are in the academy today." Seeing Suzanne, Qinming immediately greeted him with a smile and respect in his eyes. Although only a few people knew about Suzanne's defeat of Yu Xianmin, as the instructor of the team members, he naturally knew about it. He has also competed with Yu Xianmin, and the two are already on par, but Suzanne, who is under 15 years old, can actually have such strength. What a pervert. "It turns out that you are here, Xianmin. As the captain, you can take your highness to the team for a walk, so that everyone can develop some tacit understanding." As soon as he finished speaking, Qinming noticed that Yu Xianmin was also there. The smile on his face became even wider, and he continued. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere at the scene suddenly became weird. "Suzanne." With a raised brow, Suzanne looked at Qinming in confusion, and then focused on Yu Xianmin. "I go. Am I not the captain now? Ahem." After understanding the meaning on Suzanne's face, Yu Xianmin had an unnatural look on his face, coughed twice in embarrassment, and then turned his head to the side. "Suzanne has a problem. There's definitely a problem, teacher. Qinming, am I not the captain of the team now?" Patting Qinming's shoulder, Suzanne asked with a familiar smile. "What's the meaning, Qin?" Meng frowned suddenly and looked at Yu Xianmin strangely, not knowing what was going on. Wasn't the captain of the team always Yu Xianmin? Even if you defeat her, you still won't be convinced by the team members. Seeing that Qinming really didn't know, Suzanne immediately smiled and turned to look at Yu Xianmin, his face still as harmless as a human or animal. Captain Jade, don't you have anything to say? Suzanne raised his eyebrows and asked, gritting his teeth especially when the words Captain Jade were mentioned. Of course I admit defeat, but the coach took the team members' emotions into consideration, so he didn't tell them about it for the time being. Looking sideways at Suzanne, Xian Min's face flashed with guilt, and then he explained she didn't care about the captain or anything like that. She just couldn't bear to be defeated by Suzanne's shameless tricks. As for the dream machine, very meow. He was defrauded of 500,000 gold coins by Suzanne, and was slandered and ordered to be assassinated. Is he shameless for such a shameful thing? For the sake of myself and the team members, of course it was best to hide it. Well, don't you want to be the captain? Go and conquer them yourself. I won't take care of these things for you. Wow, wow, wow. Hearing this almost perfect explanation, Suzanne couldn't help but praise Meng Shenji. Sure enough, he was old and treacherous. He could come up with all these excuses. She took a small note and jotted it down in her heart. Suzanne didn't pay much attention to this matter. After looking at the yard, Suzanne asked bluntly, where has old man Meng gone? Isn't he in the academy? Ahem. Teacher Meng is in retreat. I only found out about it when I came here just now. Qin Ming coughed lightly and then replied truthfully. Noticing that the honest man Qin Ming's face looked a little unnatural, Suzanne knew immediately that he was talking nonsense. Acting skills were not something everyone had. Suzanne glanced around and saw the 2 teacups on the stone table, and Suzanne understood in his heart. Alas, why are you hiding? I'm not a wild beast. Why am I so scared? Feeling very hurt inside, Suzanne shook her head helplessly. I'm in retreat, right? Let me do some good deeds by the way, and spend more money on your behalf. I came here this time because Professor Meng still owes me 500,000 gold coins. Since he is in retreat, I will go in and search for him myself. Suzanne said sternly. Bang. As soon as he finished speaking, the door to the main room was pushed open, and then an angry voice rang out. You fart. When did I owe you gold coins again? You have to speak with your conscience, Meng. Shenji rushed out angrily, his face twisted with anger, filled with evil spirits, and looked a bit ferocious. It doesn't matter if you pay 500,000 gold coins once, you have to come here a second time. I'm sorry, people can't be so shameless. Suzanne raised his eyebrows, his face full of teasing and disdain. Hey, old Meng, aren't you in seclusion? Why did you come out all of a sudden? Meng Shenji, depend on. You've been fooled. You've been sloppy. Ahem. Why did you come to see me? After coughing twice, old man Meng turned over the page without blushing and asked bluntly. Suzanne curled his lips, and the look of disdain in Suzanne's eyes became even more intense, but business was still more important. Suzanne pointed at Ziyu and Hulina behind them. I want them to study at the Royal Academy. Please make arrangements. Hearing this, Meng Shenji was stunned and looked at Suzanne in disbelief. I'm already ready to fight back. Why don't you follow the routine? However, Meng Shenji breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that Suzanne was not here to cause trouble for him. Looking up at Ulina and the other two, Meng Shenji's eyes lit up, and then he shook his head. Your Highness, you also know that the Royal Academy is an academy for advanced soul masters. It seems that the soul power levels of the two of them have not met the requirements, right? Meng Shenji said with a confused look on his face. The admission requirements for the Advanced Soul Master Academy are that you need to break through to level 20 and obtain a second soul ring. To enter the Royal Academy, you must be at least level 25. The two of them are about 10 years old, and their soul power can actually reach level 22. They are indeed good prospects, but rules are rules, and it is not easy for him to break them as the Dean. Chapter 147 Monthly Weekend Subscription. Understand? Rules. Are you talking about rules with me? Suzanne seemed to have heard a big joke. His face was full of disdain and contempt. Your Highness, after all, this is a rule set by the Royal Academy. If everyone can break it, what will be the dignity of the Academy in the long run? Meng Shenji spoke righteously and had a serious face. It seemed that he would never give in because of Suzanne's status as a prince. As a professor of the college, he is supposed to be impartial and impartial. How can he practice favoritism and malpractice? If this spreads out, How can he convince other colleges? Rules are rules and must not be broken. He was definitely not deliberately making things difficult for Suzanne because of being cheated. He was not that kind of person, but there are times when you humble yourself and beg me for mercy. Wow, wow, wow. It's so cool. You continue. As I'm a professor in the college, I will never allow such backdoor evil practices to exist. On the side, Ziyu and Hulina, who were watching the development of the matter, couldn't help but feel a little anxious at the moment. Sister, let's take another look. If it doesn't work, let's not embarrass His Highness. Pulling Hulina, Ziyu reminded her in a low voice. Hulina also nodded knowingly. Even if they couldn't get into the Royal Academy, they wouldn't blame Suzanne. Seeing Meng Shenji's triumphant eyes, which seemed a little wondering, Suzanne sighed. Monthly subscription, Saturday, Sunday, Teomi. After a pause, Suzanne spoke slowly, without any expression on his face point, but as soon as these words came out, Meng Shenji's expression suddenly changed. He quickly covered Suzanne's mouth and pulled Suzanne aside point, as if his tail had been stepped on. Meng Shenji suddenly exploded. His old face was red with blood at the moment. He was ashamed, angry and guilty. This issue as if he noticed that the sound was too loud. Meng Shenji looked up at Xian Min and others guiltily. Seeing that they didn't react, he couldn't help but breathed a sigh of relief. Deliberately lowering his voice, Meng Shenji's face turned red and embarrassed, and asked, "How did you know about this?" "Don't worry about how I know it. If this gets out, you know," Suzanne reminded with a grin. Hearing this, Meng Shenji's face suddenly turned dark. He is over 60 years old. It is okay to spend 2 days in Qinghe Garden, but he cannot bear such a torment. With a look of despair on his face, Meng Shenji sighed helplessly and said weakly, "Just tell me, what do you want me to do?" "It's okay now." Professor Meng sticks to the rules of the academy and gets rid of bad habits. This is a blessing to the Xiandao Empire and a role model for all teachers. How can I force you to violate your conscience because of my own selfishness? Let's stop this matter. You must not let them enter the academy, otherwise I will be angry. Suzanne shook his head. His tone was righteous, his face was full of admiration, and of course, guilt. How could I force such a principled teacher like Meng Shenji? It was really inappropriate. Meng Shenji, MMP. Please be a human being. I will let them enter the academy immediately, as long as you don't tell the truth. Gritting his teeth, Meng Shenji quickly promised. At his age, if the incident of going to Qinghe Garden was exposed, the reputation he had built up in his life would be completely ruined. Isn't this bad? After all, this is your bottom line. Suzanne hesitated. Seeing that Suzanne had taken advantage of him and acted like a good boy, Meng Shenji gritted his teeth with hatred. He greeted his relatives in his heart, but smiled like an ant on the outside. The so-called bottom line, occasionally stepping back a centimeter or two, or stepping on it, is harmless. So, Xian, as expected of member of society, old man, you are very conscientious. Then, it depends on your performance. Suzanne raised his eyebrows and gave him an appreciative look. Meng Shenji immediately nodded obligingly. Finding talented students for the college is what he must and should do as a teacher. The anger on his face turned into a warm smile in an instant. Meng Shenji looked at Ziyu and Hulina, smiled and nodded. Although you two have not reached level 25 soul power, considering your young age and extraordinary potential, I decided to admit you into the academy as an exception. I hope you can practice hard and work hard in the academy, so as not to lose the majesty of our Royal Academy. Seeing such a big change in the Meng Shenji, Hulina and the others were stunned. Even Kinming and Xian Min were also astonished. It's not that the rules can't be broken, it's unconvincing, and they are determined not to let the two of them enter the academy. Now it's changed, no matter how hard it is. Depend on, as a professor, can he be so capricious? Why are you still standing there? Why don't you thank me for your generosity? Suzanne couldn't help but remind Hulina when she saw them in a daze. Thank you, Professor. Lina woke up immediately, their faces filled with excitement, and they bowed slightly to Meng Shenji. Thank you for your kindness, Your Highness. Then, the two turned to Suzanne with a more respectful attitude. Old man, I'll leave these two to you. If I find you deliberately playing tricks, do you understand? Suzanne reminded with a smile. Meng Shenji shook his head quickly. What a joke. He is definitely not that kind of person. Then, you should study hard in the academy. I have something else to do and will come see you later. After waving to Helena and the other two, Suzanne then smiled and walked away. The two originally wanted to send them off, but Suzanne refused. Why? You really going to fight me? Seeing Yu Xianmin following him step by step, Suzanne raised his eyebrows slightly and asked, do you dare to be upright? Yu Xianmin's eyes narrowed, fighting spirit and anger surged, and he shouted coldly, okay, come to my house later, and I'll give you a chance. Seeing how stubborn Yu Xianmin was, Suzanne couldn't help but laugh, and after thinking about it, he agreed. He didn't want to be thought about all the time. It wouldn't be good if his wife, Kan Ringsu, became jealous. Seeing Suzanne suddenly agreed, Yu Xianmin was stunned and a little surprised. Wasn't he always afraid and refused? Why did he suddenly agree so readily now? You can't use any other means. We can only fight in the form of a soul master competition. Yu Xianmin was alert in his heart and stared at Suzanne without any doubt. She remembered that she was plotted against in his house last time. If she went there this time, who knew if there was a conspiracy? Suzanne nodded. The competition only lasted for tens of seconds and did not waste his time at all. See you later. After waving, Suzanne left the Royal Academy alone, then rode a carriage back to Xiandao City. In the eastern part of Xiandao City, a 200-meter high building has risen from the ground, towering into the clouds. Its unique and magnificent tower shape is eye-catching. Chapter 148 Entertainment City Layout. The body of the tower is milky white in color, and its exterior is made of marble. As for the interior, it is made of solid metal such as fine iron. Otherwise, it would not be able to support a 200-meter high building. In the middle section of the tower, there are 16 spoons extending from the tower body, 8 on the top and bottom, which look a bit awkward, as if they are used to hold something. It has to be said that this tower-shaped building is located in the central area of Xiandao City, which is quite unique. Your Highness, I heard that you went to the border and didn't come back. Old NIU, I'm very worried. Hearty laughter rang out, and NIU Gao was seen running out of the building immediately, with sweat on his face, and looking a bit embarrassed. However, judging from his rosy complexion, it seemed that he was more happy and excited, and he did not pay any attention to these things on his body. I remember that senior promised me that when I come back, I can see that the building has been completed. Suzanne joked with a smile, but there was no anger on his face. Your Highness, don't look at them as they are still busy. In fact, the building has been built a long time ago. They are just adding decorations on the outside. NIU Gao replied with some satisfaction. Oh, then take me in and take a look. Suzanne said with a satisfied nod. Your Highness, please. There is fine in the rough. NIU Gao did not be arrogant, but let Suzanne go ahead, and Suzanne was not polite. The building is very wide, covering an area of nearly 100,000 square meters. Once you walk in, you can even feel that the temperature is obviously lower than outside. Seeing that the carpets were laid on the ground and even the murals and green plants were done, Suzanne couldn't help but believe NIU Gao's words. Suzanne still had an impression of the drawings he designed. Looking for the memory in his mind, Suzanne passed through a long corridor and came to the central location point. As soon as he walked out of the passage, Suzanne suddenly felt a sense of enlightenment. He saw an extremely open space with a height of 50 meters below. Countless seats were arranged neatly and stepped down, and in the center was a soul fighting platform 50 meters long and wide. With a slight step, Suzanne released his martial spirit and flew to the spirit fighting stage. Without the slightest hesitation, Suzanne released the dark gold fear claw metacarpal bone and gently scraped it up. The hardness is pretty good, although the soul fighting platform was scratched open. Suzanne still nodded with satisfaction. He could feel how solid the soul fighting platform was. It's just that his dark gold fear claw metacarpal bones are even more abnormal. Niugeo was also stunned when he saw the mark on the soul fighting platform. This thing was made by that old guy from Titan, and even the Soul Emperor might not be able to destroy it. Now, the mark was scratched out directly. After taking a deep look at the sharp soul bone in Suzanne's hand, Niugeo's eyes narrowed, and he didn't ask, but just wrote it down secretly. The second to fourth floors are ordinary floors, not as high as the first floor. They are food projects, mainly shops and the like. But now they are all empty houses, with nothing to see. After browsing for a while, Suzanne skipped over and reached the fifth floor. Noticing the tennis racket placed on the shelf nearby, Suzanne couldn't help but pick it up and swung the ball out. Boom. The tennis ball exploded like a meteorite, hit the ground with a bang, and then ejected. A depression in the ground was clearly visible. Seeing this scene, Suzanne also burst into laughter. This is the real violent and murderous tennis. However, Suzanne didn't let the Soul Master play murderous tennis. The 5th and 6th floors are mainly used for various leisure and entertainment activities, including some ball games. It seems that ball games played by ordinary people are not as exciting as fighting spirits, and they don't seem to be enough for people to pay to watch. But Suzanne is not for selling tickets, but for private entertainment and parties, especially for those nobles. Is most of Xian City's wealth in the hands of Soul Masters? You can say that, but it's not accurate. Xian City has a population of several million, but there are less than 10,000 Soul Masters, and most of them are wealthy businessmen and nobles who cannot cultivate to become Soul Masters, and Suzanne just wanted to pay for their money and let them know that besides watching soul fighting, there were many fun and elegant things. GGG, Your Highness, I don't know why this building was built to be hollow. Seeing Suzanne's joyful look, Niugeo hesitated to speak, and finally asked the question he had just asked when he saw the drawings, but Suzanne did not answer at that time. That's right, starting from the 2nd floor of the entire high-rise building, the center is hollow, but the hollow area is not large. The diameter at the bottom is only 20 meters, and it gets smaller as you go up, so you can't tell that it is hollow at all. Xian also asked Suzanne this question at the beginning. Haha, of course it looks good. Hearing this, Suzanne smiled and replied casually, but there was a smile in his eyes. In the middle, he also wants to put a tower that can defeat gods. Niugeo, nice. Do you think I'm easy to bully because of my well-developed limbs? He was very satisfied with the current layout of the entertainment city. Suzanne did not continue to look at it. He told Niugeo to speed up the decoration of the exterior and left here. Suzanne's mansion, soul fighting platform. The same scene, the same two people, the same serious atmosphere. It seems like yesterday. The difference is that there is a snack melon crowd in the audience. Sister-in-law, do you think elder brother can beat that bad woman? Zook asked nervously with something in his mouth. Hearing Zook's name, Xian, who was holding her, suddenly became happy and rubbed her face. Then who do you hope will win? Of course the eldest brother wins, Zook said seriously with a straight face. He is really good at talking. On the stage of the soul fighting arena, Xian Min's face became even more gloomy when he heard the taunts from the two people in the audience, and he glared at Suzanne angrily with eyes that were like spitting fire. I want you to make the first move this time. I'm afraid you won't have a chance if I do. Suzanne yawned and waved his hand to urge him, as if he didn't take Xian Min seriously at all. But, without hesitation, Xian Min agreed directly. She fell into Suzanne's trick last time, and she would never fall for it again this time. Boom. A dazzling blue light lit up from the center of Xian Min's eyebrows, and then descended all over her body. Lines of blue-purple thunder and lightning burst out from her body, swimming around her body like small snakes. His sleeves burst open in the raging thunder and lightning, revealing two scaly claws, and blue thunder and lightning surged around his arms. With the blue electric Tyrannosaurus martial spirit, after level 30, the body parts will transform into dragons, and even at level 70, it can truly transforming into a dragon, bursting out with extremely terrifying power. Seeing the changes in Xian Min's body, Suzanne was not afraid at all. One of his attached soul bones was perfect for tearing apart little dragons with his hands. This chapter doesn't have much content, it's just some introduction. I'm a bit confused for my broad mind, but I'll speed up the pace later. As for the entertainment city, it is a money-making entertainment project in itself, so it is not very exciting. Please forgive me for causing any discomfort. Chapter 149 Azure Quiet Thunder. The Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Martial Spirit has a very strong defense. Its attacks mainly rely on thunder and lightning. The power of thunder is self-evident. However, when Xian met Suzanne, the outcome was already doomed. Not to mention the strength of the Dark Gold Terror Claw Bear, the attack method of the 100,000 Years Azure Bull Python was none other than Thunder and Lightning Point. The moment Suzanne merged into the Soul Ring and Soul Bone, Suzanne was destined to be strongly immune to the presence of Thunder and Lightning Point. With Suzanne's current level of strength, skipping levels is not a problem at all, let alone against Xian. A level 48 attack type fighting spirit sect point boom. Suddenly, the first soul ring on Xian's body, the yellow century-old soul ring, suddenly lit up. Point the first soul skill, Thunder Dragon Claw. The thunder and lightning traveling around Xian suddenly surged and extended directly to 2 meters away. Point I saw countless small thunder and lightning snakes on the dragon claw of her right arm gathering together and finally condensed into a huge thunder snake. The sparks of thunder and lightning were jumping, sizzling, venting outward. Bathed in the thunder and lightning, Xian seemed to be the master of thunder and lightning, with long hair flying, standing proudly, and the whole person looked domineering and fierce. Point at this moment, no one would think that she was a woman. Aren't you going to possess martial souls? Seeing that Suzanne was still indifferent, Xian gritted his teeth and snorted coldly, but his eyes narrowed slightly, and the soul power around Suzanne's body also stirred up. His snow white wings spread out in an instant, and the sharp feather blades seemed to cut the air. Seeing Suzanne's wings, Xian frowned immediately. A look of surprise flashed in his eyes, and Qian Rinxu's expression also changed. Bring it on. Suzanne hooked her hands, her face calm, as if she was so calm and proud about everything. Seeing that Suzanne didn't take him seriously, Xian's eyes flashed with a cold light, and the energy condensed in his arms suddenly exploded. No one moved, but a huge lightning dragon claw struck directly at Suzanne's chest. The power of lightning was so fast that it arrived in front of Suzanne almost instantly. Faced with this, Suzanne did not panic at all, and did not even use soul skills. His figure suddenly shot straight into the sky. Threads of cyan thunder and lightning surged at the pale golden wings behind him, making Suzanne's speed seemed even faster, and he dodged almost instantly. Feeling that his speed seemed to be getting faster again, Suzanne was also startled and subconsciously looked at his wings. Seeing that his wings turned pale gold, Suzanne's pupils shrank sharply, and his expression was very shocked. Seeing Suzanne flying into the sky, Xian's face condensed, without any panic. Xian had already thought about the scene before her. Although she was at a disadvantage, because she could not fly, it did not mean that she would lose. Point boom, with a loud bang, the thunder and lightning around Xian exploded again, and the beating thunder snakes flew on the soul fighting stage, actually occupying a quarter of the area. Point boom, without the slightest hesitation, Xian struck out with the thunder dragon claw again. The dark blue dragon claw was even bigger at this moment, and the thunder and lightning in the sky was unleashed and raging, as if it was going to tear everything apart. Call out. The dragon claw rushed forward and aimed at Suzanne, who was stunned. Big brother, hide quickly. Seeing that Suzanne was in a daze, Qian Rinxu and the others immediately became anxious and shouted quickly. Hearing this, Suzanne came to his senses immediately and ignored it. Looking at the approaching thunder dragon claw, blood red light suddenly appeared on his right arm. The Azure Bull Python, its soul bones are moving. Stab. The huge cyan dragon's thunderbolt suddenly flew out, and with a piercing sound, the dragon's claws were shattered like paper and headed directly towards Xian. Soulbone. Looking at the cyan thunder and lightning, Xian looked horrified, and a chill suddenly arose in his heart. She didn't expect that Suzanne had a soul bone, and the lightning attack even made her feel a little scared and powerless. using thunder and lightning in front of the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus spirit. Who are you looking down on? Gritting his teeth, Xian was also angry, and the fourth soul ring on the sole of his foot suddenly lit up. Stab. A blue thunder dragon also burst out. Although it looked a little thinner than Suzanne's green dragon, its powerful and devastating aura made people shudder. The second soul skill and the fourth soul skill were used at the same time. Xian's face was also a little pale. It was obvious that the soul power was consumed too much. But at this moment, she didn't care about this and stared blankly at the two thunder dragons colliding in the sky. Boom. Suddenly, a strong white light bloomed in the sky, and two cyan and blue thunder dragons intertwined and collided in the sky. There was lightning and thunder. Fierce sparks burst out from the impact of the white snow, and the entire yard was illuminated. Suddenly, the cyan thunder dragon was defeated and turned into a blue aura that dissipated. The attack of the azure thunder of Nirvana suddenly turned downward and directly attacked Xian. Aha! Xian's pupils shrank sharply and turned pale in horror. He didn't expect that he couldn't compete when he used the second soul skill and the fourth soul skill at the same time. Subconsciously, I wanted to dodge, but the thunder and lightning came in an instant. If I tried to dodge, I would be injured. At this thought, Xian gritted his teeth. His eyes suddenly flashed blood red, and a violent emotion rippled from his face. All she could see was the soles of her feet. While the fourth soul ring dimmed, the third soul ring suddenly shone with a dazzling purple light. Bang 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 bang. In an instant, the thunder and lightning around Xian became more violent, crackling like a whip, and black marks spread on the ground. Like a madman, Xian's face showed ecstasy, and that aura of determination and desperation made Suzanne feel a little chilly. This is Xian's third soul skill, Thunder's Wrath. It can temporarily put her in a berserk state, with her attack power increased by 100% and her soul power increased by 50%. If she does not actively stop, she will continue until her physical strength is exhausted. The thunder dragon claw swung out in one blow and hit the blue thunder dragon again. It could be clearly felt that the power of the blue dragon was weakened again. Stab. When it came to Xian, the blue dragon was bombarded by thunder and lightning all over Xian. With a sudden wave of his arm, Xian directly cut the blue thunder dragon, which had insufficient back power, into two halves. Seeing that Xian was able to withstand his 100,000-year-old soul bone skill, Suzanne was not surprised. The 100,000-year-old soul bone skill is indeed very powerful, but the power of the soul bone is related to the soul power injected into it. Suzanne did not use too much soul power in a hurry. Besides, if he injected too much soul power, he might not have much soul power left at this moment. After all, 100,000-year soul bone consumes more soul power than 100,000-year soul ring. Xian used 4 consecutive soul skills to be able to block it. The power of the Ajna thunder was self-evident. Please subscribe and reward. Chapter 150 100,000-year soul beast. Auction. Will you continue to fight? Seeing that Xian's face was pale, it was obvious that his soul power and physical strength were exhausted too much. Suzanne kindly reminded him. Certainly. As soon as he finished speaking, a clear roar suddenly sounded, and Xian could be seen staring at Suzanne with a decidedly cold expression. Then let's end it quickly. Seeing that Xian was still unwilling to give up, Suzanne also respected her intention. He flicked his fingers slightly, and a dark golden metal-like claw replaced his 5 fingers. The claws shone with a dark golden light, and the tips emitted a silvery cold light. They looked extremely sharp, and the hair was broken, again. Soul bone. Seeing the claws, Xian's figure trembled slightly, her blood-red eyes flashed with astonishment, and she looked at Suzanne in disbelief. Having 1 soul bone is considered lucky. He is only 14 years old now, but he actually has 2. I go, no wonder you are so strong, that's why. Xian shouted through gritted teeth. At first, she didn't believe it when she heard that Suzanne's soul master cultivation level could the soul sect in combat power, but now she finally understood the rival reason. It turns out that everything is because of the existence of soul bones. Haha. Now let me show you what extreme speed is. So, Xian raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and the wings behind him suddenly lit up with a pale light point swish in an instant. Xian's figure turned into a white shadow, spinning in the sky as fast as lightning. Faintly, Xian seemed to disappear, as if he had made a space jump. How can it be? Looking at the white ring formed by the afterimage in the sky, unable to tell where Xian was, Xian was horrified and stared attentively, trying to detect Xian's figure as much as possible. It's a pity that everything disappointed her. She couldn't judge it at all. Quick, it's so fast that you can't see it with the naked eye. Even if he saw it, it was probably just an afterimage of him a second ago, and he no longer knew where he had gone now. Aha. Suddenly there was a loud sound breaking through the air, and Xian felt only a flash of white light, and then a chill passed over his shoulders, but it seemed like nothing happened. Boom. The vacuum suddenly formed around him caused the air to rush in and roll back, and a wave of wind stirred up around Xian. Aha. A few strands of black hair were like small snakes, blown by the wind, and drifted past his eyes, and then landed on the soul fighting platform. A chill instantly poured into Xian's brain from the soles of her feet. She felt a chill in her hands and feet. All the thunder and lightning around her body dispersed uncontrollably, and even her martial spirit was put away. Staring at the broken hair on the ground, Xian sighed decadently, her expression suddenly becoming lonely. If he were an enemy, I'd probably be dead by now. You win. You don't have to keep fighting. Turning his head slightly to look at the figure behind him, Xian felt lingering fear, as if all his strength had been drained away, and he was weak. Don't bother me anymore. Also, it's best not to tell anyone about this today. Xian reminded. Nodding in despair, Xian's domineering confidence was gone, as if she was a woman who had just been bullied, and her voice was so weak. Pursing her lips tightly, Xian looked at Conspiracies and the two, and then left dejectedly, as if she didn't want to stay here for a moment longer. Originally, she thought that Xian was not her opponent, so she was deliberately playing tricks on her, but now it seems that she is completely overthinking it. She was arrogant and confident, and it felt very uncomfortable to be suddenly crushed by someone's punch. She didn't want to stay here and be ridiculed. Brother, you are so awesome. Jumping with her calves, Zuka rushed forward excitedly, then kicked her calves, and rushed directly towards Xian. Xian quickly crossed her arms, and picked her up, fearing that she would fall. Of course I'm awesome, your big brother. With the corners of her mouth raised slightly, Xian looked complacent, and then winked at Conspiracies. Go and wash yourself. I'll play here with Zuka. Conspiracies' face turned red with embarrassment and she glared at Xian angrily. Brother wants to take a shower, and Kena wants to go too. Zuka said excitedly, her eyes shining brightly. Look, if you don't know how to cherish it, someone will snatch it from you. Xian smiled and joked, and Conspiracies immediately blushed and glared at Zuka, who had an innocent face. Kena, don't say such nonsense. If your mother hears this, she will beat you. Rubbing Zuka's little face, Xian pretended to be fierce and reminded her, but in her heart she just thought she was a child, and didn't care about anything. Zuka reluctantly. A few days later, a piece of bombshell news suddenly swept through the streets and alleys of Xiandao City. In an instant, the entire Xiandao City was boiling, and the news quickly spread to the surrounding cities at the speed of a tornado. In the streets and alleys, butchers selling meat and aunties buying vegetables are all talking. Have you heard that someone is going to auction a 100,000-year-old soul beast? Stop making trouble. If someone catches a 100,000-year-old soul beast, will they put it up for auction? Do you think I'm stupid, brother? Don't you know? The city is going crazy now, and I don't know where the news came from. I think 80% of the time it's who said this nonsense, and you believe it. Many people do not believe this news, but disbelief does not mean ignoring it. 100,000-year soul beast, a legendary thing, the treasure that is the #1 dream of mainland soul masters, not to mention ordinary soul masters, even titled Douluo, were jealous when they saw it. Everyone was inquiring about the source of this news. The news spread like flying in all directions. The main hall of Wuhan Hall. Alice, wearing bright red, white, and gold bishop clothes, hurried to his study and wrote down what happened in Xiandao City. Then, when he came to the bookshelf, He opened a secret compartment, and he handed the rolled up note directly. After doing this, Salus breathed a sigh of relief, his face turned red, and his eyes sparkled. 100,000-year-old soul beast, if this news is true, His Majesty the Pope will definitely reward him heavily, then he will be completely ruined. Even if it was false, and it had gone viral in Xian City, he was just fulfilling his responsibilities. Somebody, come. After leaving the study, Salus roared, and in an instant 3 middle-aged men wearing purple clothes appeared in front of him. You guys, go and find out immediately where the news about the 100,000-year-old soul beast came from. Salus shouted sharply, his voice full of dominance, as bishop. If anyone who dared to resist, would kill him immediately. Yes, sir. Hearing this, the 3 purple-clothed bishops immediately accepted the order. Their figures disappeared in an instant, and they quickly left the spirit hall. Watching the 3 people leave, Salus's mouth corners slightly raised, his face glowing with excitement. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.